Chapter 776. Lin didn't understand why Dabai was crying. Wasn't it normal for a dog to *ck another dog? What was there to cry about? However, after being slapped a few times by Lin, Dabai seemed to have recovered from his sobbing. The light returned to his eyes, and he looked around at everyone with confusion in his eyes. After seeing Lin, tears flowed from his eyes again, and he threw himself onto Lin's body as he bawled loudly. Woof! So scary. Why did Dad and Mom force me to marry a dog and continue the family line? Is this filial piety? Is this love? What? I don't want to. I don't want to *ck a dog, and those *king dog habits. They're twisted, broken, and devoid of any morals. They can't live with the dignity of a dog at all, Dabai complained incessantly, while Lin comforted him. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them speechlessly. No matter what, this matter was finally settled. It was just a false alarm. Dabai wasn't an idiot. With the addition of new disciples, Lu Qianhuan and the others began to make arrangements for the new disciples. Everyone else also left the small phoenix world and returned to the 4-9 immortal sect. Dabai, does the world you're talking about really have to be this scary? Lin couldn't help but ask as he flew toward the palace on Dabai's back. Don't call my name. Woof. Dabai's body shuddered as he spoke. Lin. Why? I might have developed a phobia. As soon as I hear the word Bai in Dabai's name, I think of Bai Ling, and then I think of that unbearable dream. I'm about to go crazy. Woof. Dabai's voice trembled as he uttered the word Bai. Lin. Is it that serious already? So scary that you're allergic to your own name? You're going too far. It's not that scary. It varies from dog to dog. Big brother, I think you can give it a try. It's very exciting, Woof. Dabai said. Hee, I won't fall for it. Lin sneered. A look of disappointment appeared on Dabai's face. Also, can you change your very for dogs to very for people? You must be doing this on purpose. Lin was displeased. Dabai chuckled. I'm a dog. Of course, it varies from dog to dog. Lin sneered. You're not a qualified dog at all. Stop pretending. Dabai. The next day, Lin gave an impassioned speech to all of the 4-9 immortal sect's core disciples. It was a very satisfying feeling. Then, a 6-year-old eldest senior sister, who looked like she was carved from jade, greeted the 15 junior brothers and sisters. The path of cultivation was a long one, so seniority was naturally not determined by age. Instead, seniority was determined by who entered the sect first. Thus, the 15 prodigies all referred to Yi Ling as senior sister. That was an indescribable experience. Yi Ling stood on the stage, and she was extremely shy at the sight of so many people referring to her as senior sister. Her delicate little face was as red as an apple. Lin, Su Xiaolan, and the others were also quite amused by this, and they couldn't help but chuckle. Bailian continued to look at Lin with a sullen expression. First, there was the Grandmaster Lin, and now there was a 6-year-old senior sister. Did Xiaolongnu not care about her face? However, she couldn't say anything about this. This was unexpected, but it was understandable. It was exactly because of this that Bailian felt like she was going to sustain internal injuries. Lin lectured for 2 hours, relaying the sect's rules, development plans, as well as the core values of the sect. After that, it was time for Bai Ling, Xiao Zhe, Lu Qianhuan, the white-scaled wolf god, and the 4 pavilion lords to interact with the core disciples. They taught them according to their aptitudes and bestowed cultivation methods upon them. Everything went smoothly. Before they knew it, another day had passed. The next day, Lin fed chicken soup to the 3,000 outer pavilion disciples. The 3,000 outer pavilion disciples drank chicken soup for 2 hours, and they all felt extremely refreshed. Lin lectured for 2 hours, and he was also very refreshed. He wanted to continue, but Su Xiaolan stopped him. After that, Bai Ling distributed cultivation techniques to the outer pavilion disciples and assigned them missions. Most of the outer pavilion disciples had to carry out missions outside the sect for a long period of time, so they had to withdraw a lot of money from the sect to fund their missions. Thankfully, they didn't ask the Grandmaster Construction Cultivator to do normal missions. Otherwise, they would have to lay off some of the 3,000 outer pavilion disciples due to the lack of funds. Everything in the 4-9 Immortal sect was running smoothly. It was all thanks to Bai Ling, who was a reliable and experienced manager, that everything from the layout to the details was impeccable. It was all thanks to her suggestions and plans that everyone was able to play the role of the higher-ups in the sect. If it weren't for Bai Ling, Lin and the others would probably have let go of themselves and shown the disciples what a truly Buddha-like sect was like. Lin Junjun returned to the Celestial Court with a peace of mind after seeing that Bai Ling was there. And Lin and Su Xiaolan toured the 4-9 Immortal sect happily. Before they knew it, half of their vacation had passed. On a certain sunny day, a large-eyed crane appeared in the sky above the 4-9 Immortal sect. And Lin looked up at the crane, which was circling in the sky, and he felt like this was both strange and hilarious. Bam! The large-eyed crane suddenly exploded, and black ink splattered down, but it was repelled by Lin's protective true essence. A golden note floated over to him. Lin caught the golden note curiously. The words, "Entrusted by the Celestial Court," were written on it. Entrusted by the Celestial Court? That's awesome! Lin was elated. When the high-grade immortals had other things to take care of and couldn't spare any power to solve some problems, they would entrust some problems to the 9 imperial families and top sects, and then pay a certain amount of compensation. As for the 4 great sects? The 4 great sects never accepted the Celestial Court's request. Theoretically speaking, the Celestial Court ruled over the kingdom of the 9 states, and the 4 great sects also resided within the kingdom of the 9 state. However, the 4 great sects were not under the jurisdiction of the Celestial Court. They existed within the kingdom of the 9 states, but they also transcended beyond the kingdom of the 9 state. They had the confidence to do so, and Lin could also refuse the request. After all, the Celestial Court's requests were mostly based on the wishes of the sect, and they were rarely forced to do so. The fact that the Celestial Court had entrusted the 4-9 Immortal sect with a mission meant that it had truly acknowledged the 4-9 Immortal sect and treated it as a top-rate sect. Lin read the contents of the golden note with elation, and his eyelids twitched involuntarily. Celestial Court's request. Client. Celestial Thearch Mission. Investigate the cause of the riots in the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Reward. Depending on the value of the information, the reward will range from 1 million to 20 million spirit stones. Time, unlimited. Lin had heard about the riots in the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Apparently, 5 return-to-void stage immortal beasts had perished during that riot, and the riots were still ongoing. As for the cause of the riots, everyone was speculating, but there was no concrete information. The low-rank native beasts didn't know the cause of the riots, but the high-rank native beasts were extremely tight-lipped and refused to divulge any information. Sinister Spirit Beast Cesspool? Should I go or not? Chapter 777. The Sinister Spirit Beast Cesspool was actually quite far away from the Kingdom of the 9 State. The Kingdom of the 9 States was situated in the eastern part of the Tai Chu continent, and the Holy Glacial Lands were situated in the north. To the west of the Holy Glacial Lands was the Opposite Shore Realm, and to the west of the Opposite Shore Realm was the Sinister Spirit Beast Cesspool. That place was said to be a polluted land, and it was also the gathering place of the beast race. The beasts that naturally reproduced there were usually extremely bloodthirsty and violent. They would fight over a single word of disagreement, and there were even cases of members of the same species devouring each other. The beasts of the myriad mountain domain were like children compared to them. There was once a mighty figure who analyzed that the souls of living beings born in that place would be polluted, causing some kind of defect, and that was why they would become crazy and cruel. The mighty figures of the sinister spirit beast cesspool naturally retorted, "Your F** King Bullsh*. T. I just like to fight. This is the true nature of the beast race. What are you going to do about it?" It was said that many years ago, there was a debate about whether nature was evil or good. This kind of discussion was naturally fruitless. His consciousness was flawed, right? There were even Tao integration stage super mighty figures in the sinister spirit beast cesspool. How could they possibly reach the perfected Tao realm and Tao integration stage with such flaws? If you said there were no flaws, then you wouldn't be able to find a tribe that was as cruel and bloodthirsty as the sinister spirit beast cesspool. And it wasn't just one or two of them. Rather, it was as if they were born with a flaw. Even the void spirit tribe was slightly inferior. Now, the ferocious beasts in the sinister spirit beast cesspool had become even crazier, and they would even kill themselves. According to incomplete statistics, over 10 million ferocious beasts had committed suicide in the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Many of the beasts became even more berserk, and they became even more aggressive towards the surrounding forces. All the major powers of the continent sent people to investigate. The madness and rebellion of a single power had already affected the nerves of many other powers. Even the celestial court could not sit still. However, the celestial court's attention was currently focused on the Snow Maidens, the Blood Tribe, the Ant Tribe, and the Dragon Tribe of the East Sea, so they didn't have much manpower to spare for the sinister spirit beast cesspool. And Lin looked at the letter of entrustment in his hand, and gathered the pavilion master and elders to discuss it. Everyone felt that they could accept this mission. Firstly, it was to show off the sect's strength to the world. Secondly, the sect was indeed short of money. They wanted to earn some money through this mission. The next step was to confirm the candidates to carry out the mission. "Big Brotherin, I'm not going. That place is very evil for us beasts. Maybe I will turn into super fierce by if I go there. Woof." Dabai slammed the table and said nervously. Hee. Now that you mention it, I am interested, Xiaozi said with a smile. By the way, classmate and Lin, the sinister spirit beast cesspool is so far away. You won't have enough time to carry out the mission, right? School is about to start, Su Qianyan said. And Lin stroked his hair. A real man should be brave enough to skip classes and run around for a great cause. Student and Lin, you're too arrogant. I'll pass on your words to Vice Principal Yuhua. We'll see if you can graduate then. Xian Yuanqing sneered. He was obviously angry. And Lin immediately gave in. Big Brother Cheng, I was wrong. Can I apply for leave? I beg you. F***ck. He had been too excited recently and had forgotten that his class representative, Big Brother Cheng, was still around. He really had a death wish to talk about skipping classes in front of his class representative. If Big Brother Cheng dropped a nuclear bomb on him, wouldn't he be blown up into King retard? Don't ask me for leave. I'm also preparing to go into seclusion. I won't come back until I reach soul formation stage. Xian Yuanqing shook his head. And Lin, I want to go with you as well. Su Xiaolan smiled. All of you want to go? Then about applying for leave. Su Qianyun looked at Lin and the others, only to discover that they had already turned to look at her. Oh, all right, I'll try to apply for leave for all of you. Su Qianyun was a little tired. She had to apply for leave for all three of them at once, and they were the three pillars of the class. She didn't know how to explain this to the homeroom teacher. I can't be bothered to go that far. Those 3 sword pavilion disciples have only just joined the sect, so I'll have to teach them first. I still have some things to take care of in the small phoenix world, Bai Ling replied. Master, can I go with you? Xiaozi was quite eager to help, and Lin was confused. Don't you have 3 disciples to teach as well? Are you just going to leave them be? Haha, I discovered that Bai Lian is extremely knowledgeable about the dragon tribe, so I'll let her teach my 2 disciples first. Xiaozi replied with an elated expression. Everyone, Unlin's eyelids twitched. Is this how you act as a master? Subcontracting a master to a disciple, and making the disciple be the master of the disciple? That was a little too much. It's only for now. I'll teach them seriously once I get back. Let's go, master. I'm very interested in that sinister spirit beast cesspool. Xiaozi was itching to go. The sinister spirit beast cesspool was quite dangerous, so Enlin hesitated momentarily before agreeing to let Xiaozi tag along. At the very least, he would have a mighty figure to protect him. Little Lang also chose to continue teaching his disciples. As for Tina, she had been a little lethargic lately. Perhaps this was the aftereffect of using her divine techniques a while ago, or perhaps it was the aftereffect of the changes in the divine mirror world. In any case, she didn't want to battle anymore, so she also stayed behind at the 4-9 Immortal sect to look after the Phoenix egg for Enlin. In the end, Su Xiaolan, Enlin, and Xiaozi were chosen to carry out the mission. Crack space was torn open, and Xiaozi stepped into the spatial passageway with Enlin and Su Xiaolan in tow. Within the sinister spirit beast cesspool, the terrain here was extremely complex and unpredictable. Some places had clear blue skies, with birds chirping and flowers blooming in the air, creating a scene of peace and tranquility. Other places had poisonous mist permeating the air, and vital energy winding through the air like dragons. This place was fraught with peril, but it also contained astonishing opportunities. In a small city on the border of the sinister spirit beast cesspool, an inky black rift appeared on the ground. Enlin, Xiaozi, and Su Xiaolan emerged from the rift and appeared in this small city. The atmosphere here is quite good. All of the beasts here are quite decent. Enlin exclaimed as he looked at the beasts bustling about on the street. He had thought that the sinister spirit beast cesspool would be a lawless and chaotic place. Who would have thought that the beasts here would be quite law-abiding? These beasts came in all shapes and sizes, but they were quite harmonious as they bustled about on the street. Boom! Right at this moment, a violent boom suddenly erupted 100 meters away. The entire ground tremored along with it. Enlin looked up to discover a fox with a body similar to that of a human. It was stomping a powerful black tiger underfoot, and the ground beneath its feet began to crack. You dare to sell me fake tiger pelts? Are you tired of living? The fox waved the golden tiger pelt in its hand as it roared. The black tiger trembled uncontrollably. Please spare me, Master Fox. I won't do it again. I'll go and compensate you with 10 real tiger pelts. Please spare me. Hee. The fox chuckled coldly as a frosty aura began to emanate from its body. Seeing as you sold me fake tiger pelts, I'll compensate you with your tiger pelts. Its claws became as sharp as knives as it spoke, and it plunged them into the black tiger's body. The black tiger's anguished cries and pleas for mercy reverberated throughout the entire street. Many of the beasts looked on with cold expressions, and some of them were even munching on sunflower seeds as they conversed with one another. They were clearly accustomed to this scene. The black tiger was skinned alive by the fox, creating an extremely gruesome scene. The fox then strutted away with the black tiger pelt draped over its shoulders as countless beasts applauded its departure. Looks like the people here are quite fearless. Su Xiaolan sighed with emotion. Enlin massaged his brows and nodded. Also, I feel like I've learned this idiom for nothing. Chapter 778. Su Xiaolan nodded in agreement before continuing. I've learned the phrase, pulling a big flag for nothing. Right at this moment, the fox in the tiger's skin had already arrived beside Enlin. Its eyes lit up at the sight of Su Xiaolan's ethereal beauty. There was a racial barrier between wild beasts and humans. Even if a celestial maiden appeared, most wild beasts would only think that she was pretty and wouldn't have any other thoughts. However, foxes were different. Foxes had the same aesthetic standards as humans, which was why foxes liked to transform into humans. They were extremely attracted to the beauty of humans. Su Xiaolan's features were extremely intricate, and her skin was as fair as jade. With the nourishment of the vermilion bird bloodline and the true dragon bloodline, her disposition became even more regal and transcendent, as if she were a celestial maiden. Just by standing there, she was extremely pleasing to the eye. The fox couldn't resist the temptation of such an exquisite beauty. He immediately whistled before making his way towards Su Xiaolan with a smile. "Little beauty, what are you doing here in Luo Hu City? I'm the most powerful fox in Luo Hu City, so I can help you with anything you need, hee. Many other beasts looked on from the sidelines with gloating smiles on their faces. Many humans had been targeted by that fox, and it looked like that woman was going to be out of luck. You can help? Do you know why the sinister spirit beast cesspool is in chaos? Anlin suddenly interjected. Who are you to interrupt me when I'm talking? The fox glared at Anlin before slashing its claws toward his neck. It was so fast that it left a trail of afterimages in its wake, and the sound of air being torn apart rang out. It immediately unleashed a killing technique. However, a slap flew toward it even faster. In that instant, the fox felt despair and impending doom engulf its entire body. It turned its head with shock and horror on its face. Before it had a chance to react, the terrifying power of the slap compressed and twisted the space around it. Bam! The palm hadn't even touched the fox before its head exploded like a watermelon. Su Xiaolan looked at the fox with a cold expression and harumphed coldly. You dare to attack my Anlin? You're courting death. Before the fox could say a word, its headless body swayed, and then it directly fell to the ground. All of the spectating beasts drew a sharp intake of breath before turning to the woman with awe and veneration in their eyes. Master Fox of the spirit-nurturing stage had been insta-killed? This woman must not be provoked. Some of the more cowardly beasts, such as the rat tribe, had already fled in fright. They covered their heads and scurried away, afraid that the rat tribe would vent their anger on them. Master's wife is so domineering and mighty. Xiaoza's eyes lit up and he began to applaud. All hail Xiaolan! Anlin also applauded, but for some reason, he felt that something was off, as if there was something wrong with the plot. Su Xiaolan was a little embarrassed as she said, I'm sorry. I was so angry that I killed it before I could get any information. Anlin waved his hand with a nonchalant expression. Don't worry, trash of the spirit-nurturing stage is too weak. They probably wouldn't know anything even if we asked them. Too low level? All of the spectating beasts drew a sharp intake of breath. To be able to say such words, the strength of the human must be very terrifying. They couldn't afford to provoke her. Many of the beasts began to look elsewhere. Avoiding danger was the natural instinct of wild beasts. Even though they were bloodthirsty, they wouldn't throw away their lives for no reason. Of course, that didn't apply to the bunch of maniacs in the central region of the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Master, where do we go now? Should we go to some crowded places and spy on them? Xiaoza asked. Anlin rolled his eyes and grumbled. You want to spy on me? Are you King kidding me? Only weaklings would choose this method. Powerful beings usually just go for it. Go for it? Xiaoza looked at Anlin with confusion in his eyes. Anlin turned toward the central region of this small city. Let's go to the city lord's manor. Spies all sounded very high-end. That was because they were powerless against a powerful force, so they chose to spy on them and spy on them. Some people would be accidentally discovered and killed. Some people would live a good life or slowly climb to a high position and successfully steal the secrets of intelligence. This required a lot of time and energy. In this small city, the city lord was the most knowledgeable and reasonable person. Anlin didn't have the time to spy on them. Was he supposed to approach the city lord with an ordinary identity, then slowly gain his trust and spy on them? What a joke. If he really wanted to know something, he could just beat the city lord up. The city lord didn't want to tell him? Then he would keep beating him up until he gave in. In the face of absolute power, everything was easy. To the north of Luohu City, the sound of an explosion suddenly erupted from the city lord's manor. Roar! A golden-furred tiger with a pair of golden wings fled into the distance. A white figure suddenly appeared before the golden tiger and unleashed a fist. Countless golden symbols erupted from the golden tiger's body, instantly encompassing an area with a radius of over 1,000 feet. This was a rare sealing domain. Unlin's white-robed body was like a flying sword as he crashed through the golden sealing domain before unleashing a devastating punch. Boom! Heaven and earth exploded. Howl! The golden tiger let loose an agonized roar as it plummeted from the sky. On the ground, Su Xiaolan made a dragon tribe seal with her slender hands. A series of chains of water suddenly materialized in the air before wrapping around the golden tiger's massive body like water snake. Roar! Let me go! The golden tiger struggled with all its might, but the chains of water tightened even further, and it was completely unable to break free. I told you to stop running, but you just wouldn't listen. Why are you doing this? Unlin descended gracefully before turning to the golden tiger. Tell me everything you know about why the sinister spirit beast cesspool is in such turmoil. I don't know anything, the golden tiger yelled. Electricity, Unlin commanded. Crackle, dazzling electricity shot forth from Su Xiaolan's hand before landing on the golden tiger's body. The golden tiger howled in anguish. Terrifying electricity coursed through its body, causing it to tremble uncontrollably as all of its fur was charred. Are you going to tell me or not? Unlin continued. I really don't know. The golden tiger pleaded with an aggrieved expression. Boom! Su Xiaolan immediately delivered another bolt of lightning to the golden tiger. Are you going to tell me or not? I don't know anything, what should I say? Boom! The golden tiger was on the brink of death. Are you going to tell me or not? The golden tiger. Forget it, let's find someone else. This tiger really doesn't know anything. Unlin heaved a forlorn sigh. The golden tiger was ecstatic upon hearing this. Let's kill it. Its skin looks pretty good. Unlin added. The golden tiger's body shuddered. No. Please spare me. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything I know right now. Unlin chuckled. Hurry up and tell me. If it wasn't obedient, then it would be obedient after being electrocuted. If that didn't work, then scare it a little more. I really don't know what exactly happened. However, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug has issued a summons for all of the Soul Formation Stage City Lords to gather at the central city of the Beast Cesspool, Baihu City, in 2 days. That's all I know. The golden tiger trembled uncontrollably. Unlin looked at the golden tiger's expression before transmitting his voice to the mirror in his pocket. Mirror, the golden tiger didn't lie this time, right? No, the vermilion bird mirror replied. Unlin nodded before asking the golden tiger for the coordinates of Baihu City. He turned to Xiao Zhe. Let's go to Baihu City. Chapter 779. Baihu City was located at the center of the sinister spirit beast cesspool, and it was one of the 100 cities of the beast cesspool. It was built along a massive mountain range, and it wasn't very intricate. It was an extremely ancient and majestic city. The city stretched for several dozen kilometers from north to south and over 100 kilometers from east to west, and there were all types of strange-looking buildings, including gargantuan houses close to 10,000 feet tall, as well as short houses about a dozen centimeters tall. The streets were extremely wide, and the beasts on the streets were of all shapes and sizes. There were huge beasts close to a kilometer in size, and each and every one of their steps would cause the ground to tremor violently. Many beasts avoided these huge beasts in fear of being stepped on. There were also small beasts that were as small as caterpillars, and they were active in a beehive-like market. All kinds of strange beasts lived together harmoniously and strangely, forming an extremely strange landscape. This was a true beast city. It was completely different from those cities that were designed according to the human physique. Enlin, Xiao Zhe, and Su Xiaolan had only just arrived at Baihu City when they witnessed a massacre. A 300 zhang tall long-haired cow accidentally stepped on a fat and large red bee that was purchasing fruits and killed it. It was then devoured by over 1,000 red wasps, and only a skeleton remained. All of the spectating beasts were not surprised by this. This kind of massacre was a common occurrence in Baihu City, and over 100 such massacres could occur on the same day. A huge gray bear and a huge rooster with black spikes on its feathers looked at each other after witnessing the massacre of the long-haired cow. The gray bear's expression darkened. "What are you looking at?" It could sense the hostility in the rooster's eyes. The black-spined rooster was cross-eyed. "So what if I'm looking at you? Why don't you try looking at me again?" The gray bear thumped its chest with its paws. "I'll try." Cluck, cluck, cluck. The black-spined rooster flapped its wings and continued to provoke the gray bear. It was a powerful being of the spirit-nurturing stage. F*ck off, you piece of sh*t. The gray bear roared before pouncing toward the black-spined rooster. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Stupid C**t. The black-spined rooster flapped its wings and pounced toward the gray bear without any fear. Rumble, another fierce battle broke out. The spectating beasts were just about to leave when they realized that there was going to be a good show to watch. They all stopped in their tracks and continued to watch the battle with great interest. Enlin was dumbfounded. Was this the start of a life-and-death battle? Why was he so irritable? In the end, the black spiny rooster pierced the gray bear's head with its long black stinger, killing it on the street before storing the gray bear's carcass into its storage ring. It seemed to be the tradition of the beast race to collect the enemy's corpse after the battle. It was said that he did this so that he could take out the corpses to show off to others in the future. "Look, these are the idiots he killed in the past." The rooster had one. It flapped its wings and looked around with a disdainful expression. "Who else? Who else dares to look me in the eye? Who dares to look at me?" At this moment, the rooster was as proud as an ostrich. "That's enough. Do you really think you're so awesome?" A humanoid black horse snorted coldly with a long saber in its hand as it looked at the black-spined rooster with disdain. The rooster immediately turned to look at the black horse. "What? Do you want to fight me?" The black horse smiled nonchalantly. "I'm not interested in cockfighting." The rooster felt like it had been looked down upon, and its aura instantly soared explosively. All of the spectating beasts were just about to leave when another conflict erupted. Even with so many beasts present, they were unable to leave. Even Su Xiaolan couldn't help but grumble. "Enlin, I feel like if we continue to stay here, we'll be able to watch a show for the entire day." Enlin was also quite perplexed. Why were they fighting again? Were all the beasts here so aggressive? The rooster's powerful aura intimidated all of the surrounding beasts. However, the black horse's expression remained unchanged. Instead, it heaved a light sigh. "So be it. I didn't want to fight, but why are you so arrogant?" Boom! An extremely powerful aura erupted into the heavens. All of the spectating beasts were astonished. This was the aura of a soul formation stage soul beast. The black horse was a soul formation stage powerful being. Even in Baihu City, this was one of the most powerful beings there was. No wonder the black horse was so arrogant. It really did have the right to look down on the rooster. Many of the beasts turned to the rooster with anticipation in their eyes. Even Enlin and the others turned toward the rooster, wondering how the rooster was going to escape. The black-spined rooster was a bird-type spirit beast, so it was one of the fastest spirit beasts. There was a chance that it could escape from the black horse. F*ck off. Life and death are nothing to me. To Enlin's surprise, the black-spined rooster didn't choose to escape. Instead, it pounced toward the black horse. It spread open its wings, and countless black spikes shot forth like sharp swords. These spikes were extremely fast, and they were like a series of fearsome flying swords imbued with the power to slice through metal. So powerful, so fast. All of the beasts were astonished. In that instant, the black-spined rooster became even more massive in their eyes. The black horse drew its saber and slashed it toward the rooster. A dazzling saber projection flashed past, and the black spikes were sliced through like tofu before slicing through the rooster's body. The rooster's cross-eyed expression remained unchanged as its body was sliced in half, and blood splattered through the air. All of the beasts, Unlin, Su Xiaolan. Hee, I was just about to make chicken soup for dinner tonight. The black horse sheathed its saber with a buoyant expression. It stowed the two halves of the giant rooster into its storage ring before swaggering away, leaving all the beasts in its wake to witness its domineering figure. Master, I don't understand. Why didn't the rooster run away? Xiao Zhe was dumbstruck. Unlin was also very astonished. The rooster had completely changed his outlook on cultivation. I had thought that the rooster would have some kind of trump card up its sleeve, but it just ran over to deliver chicken soup to the rooster? Perhaps that's because it doesn't know what it's doing? Su Xiaolan speculated. She then sighed with emotion. I used to scoff at a certain mighty figure's claim that the beasts here had flaws in their consciousness, and I thought that it was just an exaggeration. But now, I'm starting to believe it. Unlin nodded in agreement. That's right. All of the beasts here are extremely irascible and want to fight to the death. It's really hard to believe that this race hasn't gone extinct yet. Unlin's voice had only just fallen when a burst of killing intent swept toward them. Human, I can't pretend that I didn't hear what you just said. You're insulting me as well. A minotaur stood not far away from Unlin, and it glowered at Unlin with a cold expression. Unlin faltered slightly before apologizing in a polite manner. I'm sorry, I was being rude and made inappropriate remarks. If an apology works, what's the point of using fists? The minotaur held its mace with a sinister smile. Unlin, Su Xiaolan. Come on, brothers. There are 3 humans here who have a problem with us beasts. They've said a lot of nasty things. Tell me, what should we do? The minotaur roared. Haha, kill them, of course. No, Snake King, we should eat them. Eat them? Humans are so small, how are we going to split them up? I'll eat the head. I'll eat the heart. I want the bones. Don't fight with me, wolf. A group of beasts who hadn't left yet all stepped forward at this moment and stared at Unlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiaoze with scorching eyes. Unlin could see an irrepressible desire for battle in their eyes, as if they were itching to vent their frustrations after watching the battle earlier. Chapter 780. A few dozen beasts gathered around them. There were a dozen or so of them with powerful auras, while the rest were just there to watch the show. They were so weak that even Unlin couldn't bear to watch. All of the beasts looked at Unlin and the others with malicious intent as they either pulled out their weapons or extended their claws to flaunt their fangs. They were waiting for an opportunity to tear Unlin and the others to shreds. Xiaolan, did we accidentally attract a lot of hatred? Unlin asked with a resigned expression. They're just small fries. So be it. Su Xiaolan raised her brows with a nonchalant expression. Xiao Zhe and Unlin were both looking at Su Xiaolan with admiration on their faces. Her words, her expression, so domineering. No. Unlin suddenly came to his senses. Why was Su Xiaolan doing all the flexing lately? Holy sh*t. That was the key. He finally realized what he had been feeling was wrong. What exactly was wrong? Su Xiaolan had become domineering, while he had become a noob. No, he had to turn this around. It was also at this moment that a few dozen beasts pounced toward them with bloodthirsty expressions. Unlin stepped forward and looked at the beasts with a cold expression. I, Unlin, have never had to explain my actions to anyone. All of you trash, kneel down. A golden light flashed through his eyes, and a peerless aura erupted forth. Divine might technique. Golden ripples proliferated forth, enshrouding a few dozen beasts. All of the beasts instantly froze on the spot with expressions of shock and horror on their faces, as if they had seen something extremely terrifying. Aside from the dozen or so more powerful beasts, all of the other beasts had their eyes rolled over into the back of their heads and frothed at the mouth as they fainted. Even the stronger beasts were so scared that their legs turned to jelly as they knelt on the ground. So terrifying! All of the beasts that hadn't fainted were struck by this feeling. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face as he looked at all of the beasts that had been intimidated by his aura. He finally regained some of his domineering confidence. This time they should know how formidable I am, right? However, to Enlin's surprise, the beasts did not beg for mercy or flee. Instead, they raised their heads at the same time and charged towards Enlin with a murderous look in their eyes. This time, they were even faster than before. Are they not afraid of death? Enlin faltered momentarily before the terrifying white flames surged toward the oncoming beasts and engulfed them like a tidal wave. The beasts did not even have the chance to scream before they were completely burned into a puff of green smoke. Let's not waste our time here with these trash. Let's go somewhere else, Su Xiaolan said in a calm voice as the holy vermilion flames burned on her fingertips. Master's wife is mighty. Xiaozi's eyes lit up again as he exclaimed excitedly. From Su Xiaolan's flames, he sensed an incomparably sacred and pure aura, which made him both shocked and worship. Enlin, all of the spectating beasts finally shut their mouths after seeing Su Xiaolan's ferocious attack. They all looked into the distance, pretending to enjoy the scenery around them. The human race was quite far away from the sinister spirit beast cesspool, so there wasn't much vendetta between the two sides. However, the beasts of the sinister spirit beast cesspool liked to bully the humans that came here. As such, the relationship between the humans and the beasts of the sinister spirit beast cesspool was not very good, and conflicts often broke out between the two sides. Enlin could empathize with them. After all, they even bullied their own people, so there was nothing wrong with them bullying the human race. After leaving the battlefield, the three of them decided to keep a low profile. All of them donned black robes so that the beasts could not see their faces. There might be return to void stage mighty figures in White Tiger City, so it was best to be cautious. The three of them strolled around the city, surrounded by all kinds of strange beasts. There were so many species that there was almost no repetition. If one were to compile an encyclopedia of all species, perhaps even 100 books wouldn't be able to record all of them. That was because there were probably tens of thousands of different types of beasts in this city. In any case, Enlin's horizons had been greatly broadened. Su Xiaolan was also doing the same, and she would occasionally discuss some hilarious beasts in hushed voices. For example, there was an exotic beast that looked like a black ball. Every time it walked, it relied on gas to move, so walking was like farting. Every time it walked, it would make a pu sound, creating a very comedic effect. There was also a pig that could fly. The pig's wings were most likely the pig's ears. They were extremely large, and they flapped their wings as they flew forward. There was also a mutant beast that looked like a huge flower that walked on green vines. Its bright red flower had an extraordinarily large mouth, just like a man-eating flower. However, it was a vegetarian. As it walked past Enlin and the others, its green leafy hand was still holding on to a piece of green bamboo, and it was slowly gnawing away at it with its massive mouth. It looked extremely bizarre, yet also quite adorable at the same time. Enlin and Su Xiaolan strolled through Baihu City hand in hand, appreciating the various sights and sounds of the sinister spirit beast cesspool. When they were tired, they made their way to a restaurant that was quite classy to try out some of the local delicacies. Come, we have a new dish today. This is the meat of Jack the Minotaur that our mantis butcher killed in the city today. Jack's meat is extremely bouncy and contains a lot of protein and pure energy, which can enhance one's body. If you want to eat it, then hurry up and order it. We'll make it as soon as we can. A minotaur yelled from the side. Many of the beasts that came to the restaurant began to scramble for the meat upon hearing this. I want 5 kilograms of beef. I want 5 kilograms of beef kidney. I want the entire minotaur head. I want a bull penis. The sounds of people clamoring to buy the meat could be heard incessantly. Enlin, Su Xiaolan and Xiao Zhe, after the minotaur sold out the meat of the other minotaur, he began to serve another special dish. Come, here's a new dish from the Dark Night Slug demonic king that had been wreaking havoc in the night. It was killed by the White Tiger Guards and sold to our restaurant. This Dark Night Slug demonic king weighs over 50 kilograms, and its meat is extremely tender and smooth. It's an exceptional delicacy. The Minotaur continued to yell. His voice had only just fallen when there was another frenzied scramble for the meat. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiao Zhe repressed the urge to throw up in order to prevent themselves from vomiting. They couldn't understand what was so good about the slug demonic king. Were the beasts of the sinister spirit beast cesspool all this hardcore? Su Xiaolan murmured to herself, so, the meat here is all produced and sold by White Tiger City? Enlin was even more direct. The beasts of White Tiger City are willing to sacrifice themselves in order to feed the citizens of the city. Their spirit is admirable and admirable. Master, stop flaunting your language. Xiao Zhe pleaded with a pitiable expression. I really have no appetite. Let's go make our own frying pan food. Enlin, I agree. Su Xiaolan, I have no objections either. Just like that, 2 people and a dragon, not long after they entered the restaurant, they fled without even ordering the dishes. Chapter 781. Beside a certain secluded lake in Baihu City. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiaozi gathered around the frying pan to enjoy their homemade food. The 3 of them had initially planned to try out the specialty dishes of the sinister spirit beast cesspool, but they finally gave up on that idea. No matter how good their food was, it couldn't compare to the frying pan's food. Furthermore, their food was so strange and bizarre. Not only were they using their own people to cook, but they were also using slugs to eat? Who knew how low their taste was? This time, it was Su Xiaolan's turn to cook, and she made a 5-flavor flying wok fish. Enlin and Xiaozi were able to taste 5 different flavors from the fish, which were fragrant, spicy, crispy, sour, and refreshing. The delicious flavor swept through their entire bodies, making them tremble. Amazing! Master's wife's cooking skills are even better than Master's. This dish is the most delicious food in this world. Xiaozi was full of praise. Enlin rolled his eyes at Xiaozi. Don't you feel guilty for saying that in front of me? What a waste of all the food I've cooked for you. Master, I don't know how to lie, so I'm just telling the truth. Xiaozi was not backing down in the slightest. After spending a few days with Su Xiaolan, he had finally realized that she was the one who truly stood at the top of the food chain. Praising Su Xiaolan in front of Master would earn him a favorable impression, which would be beneficial to his own development. What if Master refused to teach him cultivation methods in the future? Then I'll call Master's wife and have her order Master to teach me. Brilliant! Xiaozi was extremely pleased with himself for being so quick-witted. Enlin felt like he had taken in a fake disciple. Why did Master suddenly have to stab him in the back? Su Xiaolan couldn't help but burst into laughter at the sight of Enlin's deflated expression. She picked up some fish and placed it into Enlin's bowl. Eat some fish to calm down. Enlin was naturally not going to be angry over this. He was just a little unaccustomed to his disciple suddenly not flattering him. In fact, he couldn't be happier to be able to taste Xiaolan's cooking. How could he not be happy? By the way, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug is going to gather all of the Soul Formation stage powerful beings tomorrow, right? Do we need to prepare anything? Su Xiaolan asked. Don't worry, we'll just follow the Golden Tiger. As for preparations, let's just warm up and get ready for battle. Enlin smiled. Su Xiaolan had already planted a holy flame seed in the Golden Tiger's body, so if it did anything that went against Su Xiaolan's will, the holy flame seed within its body would immediately erupt and incinerate it into ashes. Enlin and the others were going to wait for the golden tiger to arrive before disguising themselves as its subordinates and approaching the jade bone immortal bug to see what this return to void stage beast tribe cultivator was up to. The jade bone immortal bug was already at the return to void stage, so it most likely had access to the secrets of the sinister spirit beast cesspool. At night, the whole city was filled with strange noises. There were thunderous snores, baby cries, and other sharp, soothing, and ethereal noises. There were clearly very few beasts on the streets, but there were so many noises that it sounded like a bustling market. It was like a lively ghost city. Rumble! Another battle erupted in Baihu City. Enlin and Su Xiaolan sat on the bricks of a certain pavilion, looking at the fire in the distance. Enlin really didn't know how to describe these beasts. This was already the 27th intense battle of the night, and all of the beasts involved were at least of the spirit-nurturing stage. He was beginning to understand why Baihu City, one of the 100 cities of the sinister spirit-beast cesspool, had such a crude architectural style. There were battles in the city every day. It wouldn't be worth it if the delicate buildings were destroyed by the aftermath of the battles. The powerful beings of the sinister spirit beast cesspool could rank among the top 5 most powerful beings on the entire continent. Now, it seemed that this ranking of combat strength was not without reason. All of the powerful beings here had to step over a pile of corpses to get to where they were. It was easy for them to die early if they battled incessantly, but it also gave birth to powerful beings who were extremely adept at battle and slaughter. Boom! A bolt of white lightning fell from the sky with the power to vanquish all evil. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were both quite intrigued. A soul formation stage powerful being had appeared. This was a huge centipede with lightning revolving around its body. Soon, a scorching pillar of flames fell from the sky toward the centipede. A flaming Pegasus joined the battle. Black mist revolved around it, and a huge python over a kilometer in length appeared before pouncing toward the most intense battle. In just a short while, a chaotic battle between 3 soul formation stage soul beasts and a dozen or so spirit-nurturing stage beasts had descended. Immediately afterward, a lion man over 1,000 feet tall emerged from a huge house with a massive axe in his hand. F***ck off. You're not going to let me sleep at this late hour? F***ck. Come fight me if you want to. The black python chuckled coldly. I'm going to kill you. The lion man wielded his massive axe and joined the battle to the death with the black python. Enlin, Xiao Zhe's eyes widened in disbelief. A battle of life and death has begun just like that? These beasts really are all insane. Enlin stroked his chin. This is actually to be expected. But we still haven't seen the rumor that all beasts are insane and will kill all living beings on sight. Furthermore, they will commit suicide at the slightest provocation. It does feel a little more gentle. If we really do see what you're talking about, then we're probably not far from the truth, Su Xiaolan said softly as she gazed at the battle in the distance. However, the battle in the distance was not over yet. Another change occurred. For some reason, the battle in the distance seemed to have become more and more distant. The sound gradually faded, the flames gradually dimmed, and the world seemed to have turned black and white. Enlin and Su Xiaolan's expressions shifted in unison. Xiao Zhe stood up and unleashed a black dragon crystal wall, which enshrouded the 3 of them within. An ethereal singing voice sounded, reverberating throughout heaven and earth. This was a voice that could not be distinguished between genders, but it was extremely melodious, as if it were drifting through the clouds. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiao Zhe turned their eyes toward the sky at the same time, and expressions of astonishment appeared on their faces. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiao Zhe all turned toward the sky in unison as expressions of astonishment appeared on their faces. On the path, There were tens of thousands of semi-transparent black beasts of different shapes and sizes advancing in an orderly manner. They formed a terrifying wave, but they were completely silent. On the road, tens of thousands of translucent black beasts of various shapes and sizes were slowly moving forward in an orderly manner. They formed a terrifying wave, but they were silent like a silent scene. Most importantly, Unlin couldn't detect any signs of life from their bodies. He had initially thought that the semi-transparent bodies of the beasts were void spirit tribe living beings. However, there was no way that they would be completely devoid of life force auras. Furthermore, the beasts' semi-transparent bodies had caused heaven and earth to undergo a peculiar transformation. What was going on? Moreover, as soon as they appeared, even heaven and earth underwent a strange change. What was going on? Within the beast tide, there were 4,000-meter-tall black-furred goats carrying a huge palanquin. Although Unlin didn't know what was inside the palanquin, it didn't stop him from thinking that it was awesome. The three of them did not dare to act rashly. In the face of such a strange thing, no one dared to make a move before they understood the situation. Rumble! A bolt of white lightning as thick as a bucket descended from the sky, carrying with it an immense power as it struck the huge palanquin. One of the soul formation stage centipedes that had been fighting earlier suddenly made a move. Chapter 782. Everything had happened in an extremely abrupt manner. This was like when an emperor was on a tour of the city, and all of the citizens were kneeling before him. No one would have thought that there would be such an audacious person. Just because heaven and earth had changed didn't mean that their powers had been restricted. Unlin stared at the descending bolt of white lightning with astonishment on his face. No one in their right mind would do something like that. However, this was not a human, but a centipede. And this was a centipede that lived in the sinister spirit beast cesspool. The white lightning pierced through the night sky before crashing into the massive carriage being carried by the 4 black-furred sheep beings. Boom! The lightning exploded upon striking the roof of the carriage, causing the carriage to tremor slightly, but it remained completely unscathed. The tens of thousands of semi-transparent beasts faltered before turning to look at the centipede. They were all very quiet, but the frosty aura emanating from their bodies was enough to freeze the entire space around them. Unlin's heart jolted upon seeing this, and he couldn't help but hold his breath. However, the centipede was not intimidated in the slightest. "How dare you try to play tricks in the middle of the night? I'll kill you all." Unlin was astonished. Was there something wrong with this centipede's head? Right at this moment, lightning erupted from the centipede's body as it prepared to unleash another attack. However, it didn't have a chance. Among the tens of thousands of semi-transparent beasts, one of the more eye-catching ones, which appeared to be a dragon-headed being, hurled its spear toward the centipede. Whoosh! The spear instantly pierced through space before instantly piercing into the centipede's body. Hiss! Hiss! The centipede let loose a blood-curdling cry. Its body slowly crumbled before completely disappearing on the spot. Then, Unlin was greeted by the sight of a massive semi-transparent centipede lying silently in a certain corner of the beast tide. Unlin's heart jolted with shock upon seeing this. The centipede had been assimilated? Within Baihu City, over half of the beasts who were still engaged in battle chose to attack the beast tide in the sky. Thus, all of the attacking beasts were slain in less than a minute. They had all become a part of the strange beast tide. That was not the end. Tens of thousands of semi-transparent beasts drew their bowstrings to materialize a green arrow, which they aimed toward all directions within Baihu City. Release the string. So, at that moment, tens of thousands of arrows were fired simultaneously. The densely packed green arrows were so dazzling in the black and white world. They pierced through the darkness like a spectacular meteor shower, leaving a series of green trails in their wake as they fell toward all directions of White Tiger City. Unlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiao Zhe's expressions changed at the same time. Their divine senses were highly concentrated, fearing that an arrow would fall towards them. Blood-curdling screams filled the entire White Tiger City. The sound was weakened by the special world, so it was very weak. But to people with high cultivation like Enlin, it was clear. That voice was mournful and painful, and it was accompanied by the disappearance of life. It was also at that moment that the 70,000-strong beast-tide army became 80,000 strong. The world regained its tranquility. Clean up complete. Next stop. A vast and ethereal voice rang out. The 80,000 beasts seemed to have received some sort of instruction, and they began to advance toward the distance along the Green River. The strange army left just like that, and heaven and earth returned to normal. Many of the sleeping beasts didn't even react to this strange phenomenon. Instead, they were still snoring, either because they had been struck by a spell technique, or because they were truly in a deep sleep. Enlin heaved a long sigh of relief upon seeing this. He exchanged a glance with Su Xiaolan, and both of them could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. They didn't dare to investigate the situation as they were too scared. The power displayed before them struck them with a sense of irresistible power. Those beasts were most likely killed, then transformed into some kind of special form. Su Xiaolan paused momentarily before continuing. It's a bit similar to what I know, they're puppet souls. Puppet souls? This was the first time Enlin had heard of this term. That's right, they're a type of soul, which is what we often refer to as ghosts. However, they're ghosts with no consciousness, and they possess a portion of the energy of a living being when they were alive. As such, they can be manipulated by external living beings, Su Xiaolan explained. Souls that are manipulated by living beings? A thought seemed to have occurred to Enlin, and his eyes lit up. Could it be a mighty figure from the opposite shore realm? Aside from the ghosts in the opposite shore realm, which bordered the sinister spirit beast cesspool, there was probably no one else in this world who could manipulate souls like this. Su Xiaolan clearly agreed with Enlin's conjecture, and she continued, the one in the palanquin is most likely a mighty figure from the opposite shore realm. Isn't he afraid of the beast tribe's vengeance by massacring so many souls in the sinister spirit beast cesspool? Could it be that the beast tribe hired it to take care of some beasts? Enlin suddenly thought of something. When it said, clean up complete, next stop, it sounded like it was about to complete some kind of mission. Su Xiaolan nodded. That's a possibility. Perhaps it has something to do with the chaos in the sinister spirit beast cesspool. We don't know the specifics, but we'll see what the Jade Bone Immortal Bug has to say tomorrow. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's gathering all of the soul formation stage powerful beings tomorrow. Enlin asked, you're saying that it's waiting for a mighty figure from the opposite shore realm to take care of a wave of beasts before gathering. I can't rule out that possibility, Su Xiaolan replied. Both of them fell silent. They sat on the rooftop of the building and looked out at the sea of stars in the foreign realm. They watched as the stars twinkled and the rivers of stars flowed. The night was peaceful and tranquil. Aside from the strange snoring that was a bit of a killjoy, everything was so peaceful and tranquil. The sounds of battle could no longer be heard in the second half of the night, and the atmosphere became a bit more normal. Before they knew it, the next morning had arrived. The Golden Tiger rushed to Baihu City and contacted Enlin and the others via voice transmission talisman. Tiger, did you see a beast tide pass through the sky yesterday? Enlin asked in a low voice upon seeing the Golden Tiger. A beast tide pass through the sky? Was it a flock of birds migrating? The Golden Tiger was dumbstruck. Enlin heaved a forlorn sigh upon hearing this. It looked like the Golden Tiger didn't know about this. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiao Zhe were going to the central palace of Baihu City as the Golden Tiger's servants, where the Jade Bone Immortal Bug was waiting for them. Enlin handed the illusionary star robe to Su Xiaolan and instructed her to disguise her aura in order to avoid detection by return to void stage mighty figures. Enlin's consciousness was more than powerful enough to crush most return to void stage mighty figures, so he could naturally disguise and conceal his aura. As for Xiao Zhe, His cultivation base was at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage. Apparently, the jade bone immortal bug was only at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage. It would be impossible for him to detect any abnormalities in Enlin and the others. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Xiao Zhe were led by the Golden Tiger to the gargantuan palace. The palace was over a kilometer tall, and it had a quaint and majestic exterior. The walls were lined with black and white stripes, just like a zebra. Aside from that, there wasn't anything special about it. That was the way the beasts looked at things. All that mattered was that it was livable, pure and simple. Enlin walked into the palace with curiosity in his heart. Chapter 783. After walking into the massive palace, they discovered that there were already many beast tribe powerful beings gathered within the massive red-carpeted space. There were huge beasts over 1,000 feet tall, as well as small beasts that were only about a dozen centimeters tall. Everyone was gathered here, just like in the animal kingdom. There were also beasts of similar stature to Enlin and the others. For example, there were some minotaurs, centaurs, and dark fire monsters. All of them had a similar build to humans, and they were all petite and well-built. Hence, Enlin and the others donned their black robes so that they wouldn't attract any attention. After waiting for about an hour, the gate of the palace slowly closed, and a spell formation began to appear. It was clear that the city lord had arrived. Enlin looked around at the beast tribe powerful beings gathered here. There were 21 soul beasts of the soul formation stage and 52 spirit beasts of the spirit nurturing stage. This was already a very powerful lineup, and with the addition of the jade bone immortal bug, it would be another first-rate sect in the kingdom of the 9 states. The beast tribes of the sinister spirit beast cesspool were all very powerful. Apparently, there were 4 Dao integration stage mythological beasts among them, which was more than enough to dominate all of the surrounding powers. However, those 4 mythological beasts were all extremely short-tempered, and they were unable to ally with one another. Instead, they would fight one another, which resulted in the sinister spirit beast cesspool being split into 4 factions. They liked to fight and play when they had nothing better to do, which was a rather unique trait of the sinister spirit beast cesspool. It was exactly because of this that the sinister spirit beast cesspool became a rather reassuring powerhouse among the surrounding powers. Even though they were quite ferocious, they only liked to fight one another. However, the beautiful lifestyle of the surrounding powers had been shattered recently. This was because the beast tribe had become more aggressive. Not only were they attacking their own people, but they were also spreading the flames of war to other powers. Apparently, a mid-tier power, the Green Yuan tribe, had already been razed to the ground by them. Just as Enlin's train of thought was drifting away, a massive spatial rift began to appear. The rift opened up, and a pristine white insect that resembled a scaly python crawled out from within. Its body was several hundred feet in length, and its entire body was smooth and glossy like white jade. There were long feelers on its nose, and its eyes were as beautiful as sapphires. Although it was an insect, Enlin felt that it was the most beautiful insect he had ever seen in his life. Its appearance was very beautiful. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a very pleasing piece of art. This was most likely the jade bone immortal bug that had summoned all of the beast tribe powerful beings to this place. The jade bone immortal bug looked around at all the beasts in the palace before nodding with satisfaction. I've gathered all of you here as I have a massive opportunity to bestow upon all of you. When Enlin heard this, he felt that this voice was also very good. It sounded crisp and pleasant. Perfect. Truly perfect. She was definitely a fairy among insects, an existence that could charm thousands of insects. All of the beasts' eyes lit up upon hearing this as they stared intently at the jade bone immortal bug. The jade bone immortal bug continued, I'm sure everyone has heard about the changes that have taken place at the place where our mythological beast, the demonic blood Kirin, perished. All of the beasts nodded with grave expressions on their faces. Once the vast land of blood appears at the place where the demonic blood Kirin perished, crimson light will illuminate the entire sky, and the sinister spirit beast cesspool will become a true slaughterhouse. When that time comes, most of the beasts will lose their minds and be reduced to beasts that only know how to kill. The passageway connecting the vast land of blood to the outside world is gradually opening, and many of our beasts have already been affected. As the passageway opens, the situation will only worsen. A while ago, 4 return-to-void stage immortal beasts tried to enter the passageway, but they all went insane when they came out. In order to slay those 4 immortal beasts, we even sacrificed one of our immortal beasts. All of the beasts drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing this, and they looked at one another with bewilderment in their eyes. And Lin was also astonished. So this was how the 5 mighty figures that had fallen during the sinister spirit beast cesspool had died? This was a place that could drive even return-to-void stage mighty figures insane. Yesterday, Ghost Emperor Pajun of the opposite shore realm came here to purify all of the beasts that had been affected by the blood tribe. All of you who have appeared before me now have been purified and have passed a trial, thereby granting you the right to enter the vast land of blood. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug spoke with fervor, but Enlin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Purified? After killing all of the abnormal beasts, only the beasts that had been purified remained? What King brutal method. All of the beast tribe powerful beings' flesh crawled upon hearing this. All of them had noticed a certain phrase. Only those who had been purified and passed a trial had the right to enter the vast land of blood? Come on. That was an extremely terrifying place that could even corrupt return-to-void stage mighty figures. Even if they were begged to go there, they wouldn't dare to go there. I know what you're all thinking. You think that place is very terrifying? Wrong. The Divine Bat Emperor has already sent people into the vast land of blood to investigate. Dao integration stage mighty figures are unable to enter that place, and it has an extremely fearsome effect on return-to-void stage mighty figures. However, the effect on beasts below the return-to-void stage is negligible. Many batches of spirit nurturing and soul formation stage powerful beings have already entered the vast land of blood and returned safely. Not only that, but they have also obtained many extremely good opportunities. That is a treasured land that has awakened after tens of thousands of years of slumber. Who wouldn't want to have the opportunity to enter the place where a Dao integration stage mythological beast has fallen? The Divine Bat Emperor doesn't want to give these opportunities to the outside world, which is why he's giving you this opportunity, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug continued. All of the beast tribe powerful beings listened in silence, not daring to utter a single word. Aside from that, there is also a mission that concerns the survival of the beast tribe, and that is to find the Kirin Blood Jade. Bring it out and give it to the Divine Bat Emperor. The Divine Bat Emperor will be able to use the Kirin Blood Jade to seal the passageway again, thereby completely averting this crisis. The Divine Bat Emperor will bestow upon the powerful being who obtains the Kirin Blood Jade 3 immortal tools and 10 immortal pills. He will also be titled a Guardian Beast King and become the city lord of 5 of the 100 powerful cities. Some of the beast tribe powerful beings' eyes finally lit up upon hearing this. So who doesn't want to go now? If all of you want to go, then I'll teleport all of you to the entrance of the vast land of blood. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug's voice reverberated throughout the palace. My wife is giving birth at home, so I can't go, a huge crimson python said with a nervous expression. The beast tribe powerful beings weren't idiots. Just because the Divine Bat Emperor said it was safe didn't mean it was. If there really were so many treasures to be had, then why would they have to share this opportunity? Even if the sinister spirit beast cesspool was their top priority, they still wouldn't do something like this. Splat! The Jade Bone Immortal Bug's white tongue suddenly extended through the air and instantly swept up the crimson python's massive body before dragging it into its gargantuan mouth. Save me! I'm not going back. I'll go with you. The crimson python was scared **tles as it begged for its life. However, the only response it received was the jade bone immortal bug's gargantuan black hole. Gulp, the soul formation stage crimson python had been swallowed alive. All of the surrounding beast tribe powerful beings fell silent in fear. And Lin felt like he had been blinded. The jade bone immortal bug's unsightly eating behavior had completely ruined Lin's image of it. It was like a celestial maiden had suddenly opened her mouth larger than a hippopotamus, and her image had been completely ruined. If it was a little immortal bug, then it should be eating in small bites. Why did it have to open its mouth and swallow the python whole? Is there anyone else who doesn't want to go? The jade bone immortal bug asked. **CK off to the vast land of blood. I, the Bone King stage, will never bow down to anyone. A soul formation stage skeleton suddenly pounced toward the jade bone immortal bug as blue flames erupted from its body. There were many beast tribes like this that had violent tempers and were not afraid of death. The jade bone immortal bug opened its mouth again, and its tongue was so agile that it was impossible to look at it directly. The skeleton was completely unable to evade before it was swept into its mouth again, upon which its blood-curdling wails reverberated throughout the palace. Is there anyone else who doesn't want to go? The jade bone immortal bug asked. All of the beasts, even the pig beasts, knew that this wasn't going to be an easy task. If the vast land of blood really was as good as the jade bone immortal bug had described it to be, why would it resort to such underhanded methods to force all of the beast tribe powerful beings there? Alright, seeing as everyone wants to go, then come with me. A satisfied smile appeared on the jade bone immortal bug's face as it rammed its head through the air. I don't agree. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Chapter 784. The jade bone immortal bug turned to the black-robed figure before it with a cold expression. Since when does a follower like you have the right to object to a discussion between the city lords? Followers don't have human rights? Lin retorted with a righteous expression. The jade bone immortal bug narrowed its eyes. Human rights? You're a human? Lin. Holy **CK. This bug doesn't play by the rules. Is that what you're talking about? The jade bone immortal bug didn't waste any more time with words. It opened its cavernous mouth, and an extremely agile tongue shot forth like a dragon toward Lin at an extremely fast speed. Bam! Lin was caught off guard and was reduced to a bloody pulp by the tongue. A clone spell technique? The jade bone immortal bug's expression shifted as it turned toward the smaller black-robed figures. At this moment, the three black-robed figures had already taken off their robes. At the same time, their auras that were no weaker than the jade bone immortal bug's erupted forth. You're being forced to die in the vast land of blood, but you don't even dare to resist. Where's your pride as a beast? The beast tribe will never be oppressed. If you don't like this, then come with me and kill this bug. Lin yelled as he waved his arms. A dozen or so beasts really did respond to his simple provocation. Roar. If you want me to die, then I'll kill you first. The beast tribe will never be slaves. They were all extremely short-tempered, and they were very displeased to be forced into the vast land of the fallen. All they needed was someone to take the lead, and their rebellious hearts would be completely unleashed. You're courting death. The jade bone immortal bug flicked its tongue toward Lin again with terrifying power. The golden lotus insignia on Lin's forehead flashed as he unleashed his origin energy of the netherworld. Boom! A golden light imbued with boundless might clashed with the pinkish-white tongue, sending all of the beasts within a radius of over 1,000 feet flying. Lin stumbled back a few steps before stopping himself. At the same time, the tongue was also knocked flying. The jade bone immortal bug's expression shifted again. Are you really a soul formation stage cultivator? Beast tribe brothers, come with me. This jade bone immortal bug is only SOSO. Come with me to destroy it and overthrow its tyranny. Unlin continued to motivate the beasts. The beasts, who had been wavering, were now all cheering loudly. They didn't dare to resist as they were afraid of being eaten by the jade bone immortal bug. Now, there was a powerful being who was comparable in power to the jade bone immortal bug. At this moment, they finally had the courage to vent the negative emotions that they had been suppressing. Kill. Avenge my brother Crimson Python. The Bone King died at its hands. It must die. Most of the beast race experts began to take action. They were all impatient, and if they were unhappy, they would fight. Even the beastmen who hadn't made a move would not interfere in this battle. In an instant, countless powerful spells engulfed the entire palace. Even Enlin, the instigator, was dumbfounded by the scene of heroes rising together. He had never imagined that a few simple words could achieve such a remarkable effect. In an instant, most of the enemies had become his teammates. F***ck off, you insolent B***stards. The jade bone immortal bug had clearly been enraged, and it abruptly turned around before sweeping its massive white body through the air like a long whip. Terrifying power made the space around it twist and warp, and just one sweep of its tail was enough to completely vanquish most of the oncoming spell technique. At the same time, a series of sharp white crystals materialized in the air before piercing through the nearest 20 or so beasts like bolts of lightning. Blood splattered through the air as blood-curdling cries erupted. Not only did the beasts not back down, but they were even more ferocious as they pounced toward the jade bone immortal bug with even greater ferocity while baring their bloodthirsty fangs. Enlin's golden void lightning and Su Xiaolan's holy vermilion flame sword projection also combined to form a cross right after the jade bone immortal bug had unleashed its attack. Boom! Lightning wreaked havoc as flames swept through the air. The jade bone immortal bug let loose a blood-curdling cry as energy exploded forth. The golden void lightning possessed the power to shatter space, and the holy vermilion flame had transcended beyond the level of divine flames and was imbued with a hint of the holy vermilion bird's power. Hence, when the two sword strikes fell, a gash was sliced into the jade bone immortal bug's jade white body, from which blood flowed like milk. Unforgivable! All of you must die. The jade bone immortal bug let loose an almighty roar as the spell formation enshrouding the entire palace activated in a frenzy. However, the spell formation didn't even get a chance to unleash its power before a streak of red light tore through the air and struck the spell formation at its most vulnerable point. Crack! Bam! The spell formation shattered like glass. The jade bone immortal bug faltered slightly. At this moment, spell techniques swept through the air again. Second transformation, butterfly transformation. A faintly discernible voice drifted over. Enlin and Su Xiaolan's expressions shifted drastically as they hurtled back in retreat at the same time. Countless crimson-veined patterns suddenly appeared all over the jade bone immortal bug's massive body. Boom, boom, boom. The spell techniques unleashed by the beast tribe powerful beings engulfed its body and reduced the entire palace to dust, leaving a circular crater in its wake. Within a vast expanse of smoke and dust, a pair of gargantuan white wings spread open. The wings extended for over a kilometer in length, obscuring the entire palace. A butterfly? Enlin stared blankly at it. So this is the butterfly transformation? Su Xiaolan gripped her dragon sparrow sword with an extremely grave expression. Boom! An even more terrifying aura swept forth. This was the aura of a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage. Due to the disparity between their life forms, many of the surviving beast tribe powerful beings began to tremble involuntarily. The white butterfly beast hovered in the air with a regal might imbued in its blue eyes, as if it were looking down upon all the ants in the world. All of you are so disobedient, so all of you can die. The jade bone immortal bug, no, it should be called the jade bone immortal butterfly now. The jade bone immortal butterfly abruptly flapped its wings, and black gale-force winds imbued with destructive power swept forth for over 3,000 meters, as if a sandcastle had been disintegrated and reduced to dust by a hurricane. In that instant, the entire palace was enshrouded by boundless black gale-force winds before being reduced to dust, as if it had been plunged into a realm of darkness and destruction. All of the beasts within the palace were sliced into chunks of flesh amid blood-curdling wails before being pulverized into invisible particles. Heaven and earth fell silent. All of the beasts had been killed. Oh, you two sure are resilient. To think that you're still alive. The jade-bone immortal butterfly looked down at Enlin and Su Xiaolan, who had used a black brick to keep the black gale-force winds at bay, and a hint of astonishment appeared in its voice. You're just hanging on to your last breaths anyway, so I'll send you on your way. Extremely terrifying energy fluctuations erupted from its wings as it spoke. Send my master on her way? Let's see if you have what it takes. A dragon's roar erupted, causing the jade-bone immortal butterfly's body to shudder. In the sky above, a black dragon over 10,000 feet in length circled around, obscuring the entire sky. A black formation rose up from the ground, encompassing an area with a radius of over 10,000 meters. The Heaven Concealment Slaughter Formation has been completed. No one from the outside can see our battle, and you won't be able to escape either. Now let me have some fun with you. A black dragon extended its claws from the clouds. It had set up a spell formation in secret during the battle with the jade-bone immortal butterfly, in fear that the jade-bone immortal butterfly would run away. If a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the Return to Void initial stage was determined to run away, Xiaoze really wouldn't be able to stop it. Now that the spell formation was complete, Xiaoze no longer had any reservations. Chapter 785. Do you really think you're no longer a worm just because you've transformed into a butterfly? I'll show you that you're still a worm to me. Boom! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky as a mighty dragon might erupted. Xiao Zhe twisted his massive body as he stared at the jade-bone immortal butterfly. The jade-bone immortal butterfly hurtled back in retreat with an expression of shock and horror on its face. No. Master Long Outian, I was wrong. I'll leave right now. Please don't kill me. Huh? Xiao Zhe looked at the jade-bone immortal butterfly with a confused expression. It was begging for its life? Even though it knew that it was very powerful, a Return to Void stage beast tribe mighty figure shouldn't be so cowardly. Also, what the hell was Long Outian? Had the jade-bone immortal butterfly misunderstood something? Enlin and Su Xiaolan, who were spectating from the sidelines, were both astonished by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Xiaolan, what did it just say? Long Outian? Enlin took a deep breath before speaking slowly. Su Xiaolan nodded. If I'm not mistaken, it's that senior Long Outian from Big Sister Xin Yin's tomb, right? Enlin, was Long Outian really that powerful? How could he scare a Return to Void stage immortal beast like this? Xiao Zhe was an honest man, and he immediately let loose a torrent of abuse. Long Outian my A*S. My name is Xiao Zhe. Don't mistake me for a dragon. The jade-bone immortal butterfly faltered slightly upon hearing this before turning its blue eyes toward Xiao Zhe. It had been intimidated by Xiao Zhe's terrifying dragon might and instinctively thought that Xiao Zhe was Long Outian. However, upon closer inspection, it discovered that the energy fluctuations seemed to be different. Phew! What a false alarm! The jade-bone immortal butterfly heaved a sigh of relief. Hee, false alarm? Xiao Zhe chuckled coldly as he suddenly opened his mouth, upon which black dragon flames pierced through the air before sweeping toward the sinister spirit beast cesspool mighty figure like a streak of black light. Heaven and earth darkened as the dragon flames imbued with the power to engulf all things descended upon the jade-bone immortal butterfly in the blink of an eye. The jade-bone immortal butterfly felt as if its body had been enshrouded by boundless darkness. That's right, the dragon flames could engulf everything, even light. Immortal spiritual barrier. Boundless white light erupted from the jade bone immortal butterfly's wings, materializing a white crystalline wall before it. The black flame breath collided with the white crystal wall, and the flames spread out like a ring of clouds. The extremely powerful flame power kept colliding, and at a speed visible to the naked eye, it began to corrode and shatter the white crystal wall. The jade bone immortal butterfly's expression shifted, and it flapped its wings quickly as it flashed through the air to another location. The white crystal wall was also instantly pulverized by the dragon flames. Before it could catch its breath, its huge dragon tail had already swung over. Pa! A deafening explosion resounded. The jade bone immortal butterfly was struck by Xiao Zhe's divine dragon whip its tail, and it threw up a mouthful of white blood as its body plummeted to the ground like a cannonball, leaving a bottomless crater in its wake. Die! The jade bone immortal butterfly's enraged roar erupted from the crater as boundless black winds imbued with the power to pulverize all things swept toward Xiao Zhe like a destructive tornado over a kilometer in diameter. Xiao Zhe was struck by the tornado of black winds, and he narrowed his eyes in elation. That felt good. Whoosh! A huge butterfly flew toward Xiao Zhe with a grave expression on its face. Seeing as the black dragon's defenses were so powerful, it would have to use some other methods. Illusionary realm, powder realm. The jade bone immortal butterfly flapped its wings again, and boundless butterfly powder erupted from its wings before instantly enshrouding the entire space. A layer of pink butterfly powder enshrouded the entire space before enshrouding Xiao Zhe like a cloud and mist that shimmered like specks of light under the sunlight. This was the powder that the jade bone immortal butterfly had been accumulating for a long time. Not only did it possess extremely terrifying hallucinogenic effects, but it was also lethal enough to poison a return to void stage mighty figure to death. Your outer shell is powerful? That poisonous mist can seep into your body through your nose, mouth, and ears. The jade bone immortal butterfly refused to believe that this dragon's internal organs would be this bad *SS. Achoo! Xiao Zhe seemed to be allergic to the butterfly powder, and he sneezed. The entire space tremored violently, and even a large amount of butterfly powder was shaken off. The jade bone immortal butterfly was given a fright, and it continued to flap its wings. Illusionary realm, powder realm, maximize. It tossed all of the poisonous items it had collected toward Xiao Zhe at once. The pink specks of light instantly became several times more concentrated. The destructive power of the poisonous items instantly caused inky black cracks to appear in the space around it. Just like that, they wrapped around the 1,000-foot black dragon in layers, like a thick pink cloud. The jade bone immortal butterfly tossed all of the poisonous items it had collected toward Xiao Zhe while panting heavily, only to be greeted by a scene that made its soul almost explode. Oi! Are you done, insect? What the *CK is this thing? Can you fight or not? Xiao Zhe's body danced above the pink mist as if he were riding on a cloud. He would inhale a mouthful of air whenever he felt like he was flying. How is this possible? The jade bone immortal butterfly exclaimed with shock and horror on her face. It didn't know just how terrifying Xiao Zhe's defenses were. Even a return to void final stage mighty figure would find it difficult to wound him. This poisonous mist really was child's play to Xiao Zhe. He could even absorb the poisonous mist into his body and digest it as energy. You're done, so it's my turn now. Xiao Zhe's voice had only just fallen when countless bolts of terrifying black lightning fell from the sky, transforming heaven and earth into a realm of destructive lightning. This was the lightning unleashed by the primordial dragon tribe, which was at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage. It was powerful enough to annihilate all things and strike fear into the hearts of most return to void stage mighty figures. The jade bone immortal butterfly didn't even have a chance to escape before it was enshrouded by boundless lightning. The lightning pierced through its white crystalline defenses, and a blood-curdling wail reverberated through the air. Its white wings had been charred black by the lightning, and some of them had even been punctured with ghastly holes. Triple transformation, rainbow butterfly. The jade bone immortal butterfly had been forced into a corner, and it let loose an almighty roar as boundless rainbow light erupted from its wings. Transform! Xiao Zhe swept his tail toward the immortal butterfly without any hesitation. Bam! The immortal butterfly's body twisted and contorted before flying back for over a kilometer before crashing heavily into the edge of the heaven-concealing slaughter formation. Pwah! It threw up another mouthful of blood. The immortal butterfly had been severely wounded, and even its transformation had failed. Immediately afterward, countless bolts of terrifying black lightning crashed down upon it. The jade bone immortal butterfly's blood-curdling wails rang out incessantly. Enlin looked up at the battle taking place in the sky above. The black dragon was unleashing its divine might, and the beast tribe returned to Void stage mighty figure was being pummeled to the point where he couldn't even take care of himself. In that instant, he truly experienced just how bad *SS his disciple was. Thus, the battle continued for a while. The jade bone immortal butterfly's body was finally unable to hold on any longer, and it plummeted to the ground again. It folded its wings before itself, and its charred body was still smoking as it trembled uncontrollably. I was wrong. Master Xiao Zhe, please spare my life. Please spare my life. I'll do whatever you want me to do. The jade bone immortal butterfly looked up at the colossal dragon in the sky and begged for its life. Enlin was quite intrigued. Who would have thought that there would be such cowardly beings in the beast tribe? Chapter 786. Xiao Zhe remained unmoved in the face of the jade bone immortal butterfly's pleas for mercy. Instead, he turned to Enlin. I can't say for sure. If you want to live, tell my master. The master of this terrifying black dragon? The jade bone immortal butterfly shuddered, and it turned toward Enlin with incredulity etched on its face. It suddenly recalled how Enlin was able to take its attack head-on even though he was only at the soul formation stage, and it immediately began to beg for mercy from Enlin. Enlin made his way toward the trembling jade bone immortal butterfly with a smile. Are you convinced now? If you're not convinced, I can continue to fight with you. The jade bone immortal butterfly immediately transformed into a bug and continued to tremble uncontrollably. Please spare me. Enlin instantly felt like the jade bone immortal butterfly had transformed into a bug. Tui, the jade bone immortal bug. I can live, but you have to establish a slave contract with me, Enlin said with a smile. The jade bone immortal bug faltered slightly upon hearing this before a sense of humiliation welled up in its heart, and its eyes gradually became bloodshot. Beasts will never become slaves. I, the jade bone immortal bug, would rather jump down from here and be blasted to death by lightning than become your slave. Little Xiao, do it? Enlin instructed expressionlessly. Rumble, terrifying lightning might begin to accumulate, imbued with the destructive power of death. The jade bone immortal bug shuddered in fear, and a sense of impending doom engulfed its entire body. Enlin immediately turned to leave. Please spare me. The jade bone immortal bug begged for mercy as it forced a smile onto its face. It would be my honor to serve you. Enlin, Xiao Zhe and Su Xiaolan, a beast tribe returned to Void stage mighty figure, was supposed to be a man of his word. How could it be so fickle? Could it be that this bug was an eel? The jade bone immortal bug clearly had a bone in its name, so where the F***ck was its backbone? Even though he was grumbling internally, Enlin still walked toward the jade bone immortal bug with a smile on his face. Seeing as it had agreed to become a slave, Enlin had no reason not to accept it. He made a hand seal and released a drop of blood essence toward the jade bone immortal bug. The jade bone immortal bug accepted the blood essence with an intoxicated expression. So fragrant. Enlin's mouth twitched. Xiaoze and Su Xiaolan. Some sort of connection was established between Enlin and the jade bone immortal bug. This time, Unlin was completely at ease with this insect. Alright, then you'll be called Xiao Gu from now on, Unlin said happily. Xiao Gu? Master, what does this name mean? The Jade Bone Immortal Bug asked. I gave you this name because you have no backbone. Unlin looked at the Jade Bone Immortal Bug with an encouraging expression. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug's flesh crawled as she stared at Unlin in astonishment. She was so angry, but she didn't dare to retort. Su Xiaolan chuckled lightly to cover up her mistake, and Xiaozi was ecstatic. It had to be said that Unlin's naming skills were as bad as ever. Alright, we're all on the same side now, so tell me what's going on with the vast land of blood. Unlin continued. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug's words were definitely not true, so Unlin had to verify them again. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug shook its head before replying in a crisp voice. Well, most of what I said about the vast land of blood was true. It didn't have much of an impact on soul formation stage and spirit nurturing stage powerful beings, and it was also true that there were many opportunities in there. If there was anything that wasn't true, it would be the danger and the Kirin blood jade. When the passageway was about to open, the Divine Bat Emperor sent a team of 1,000 elite beasts into the passageway. Among them were 30 soul formation stage soul beasts, 300 spirit nurturing stage spirit beasts, and over 600 high-rank Dao body stage mutant beasts. In the end, only 20 or so beasts returned. The place where the demonic blood Kirin fell is an extremely dangerous place with many terrifying demonic blood beasts and deceased souls lurking around. It's an extremely dangerous place, which is why the Divine Bat Emperor is increasing the number of people it has to search for. Aside from that, the Blood Jade Kirin isn't actually the key to closing the passageway. The Divine Bat Emperor has other uses for it. As for what it's going to be used for, that's not something I know. All I know is that it's very, very valuable. The place of the demonic blood Kirin fell within the Divine Bat Emperor's territory, but the other emperors are also eyeing it, and they're trying to send people into the vast land of blood under the pretext of maintaining the peace of the sinister spirit beast cesspool. The Divine Bat Emperor is currently under pressure from the other emperors, but it won't be able to hold on for long, which is why it wants to secure the Kirin blood jade within a few days. That's all I know, Yi Zichen said. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug gave Enlin a recount of everything it knew. The vast land of blood is the cause of the beast tribe riots, so why is the vast land of blood able to affect the beast tribe on such a large scale? What kind of power is this? Enlin couldn't help but ask. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug shook its head. I'm not sure. Some speculate that the residual will of the demonic blood Kirin seeped into the outside world, thereby triggering the vast land of blood. Oh, right, the Divine Bat Emperor also said that it's going to gather its forces and launch a new campaign after this is over. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug suddenly recalled something. Enlin was curious. What campaign? I don't have enough authority to know that. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug shook its head. Enlin. It was such a terrible feeling to have one's words cut off mid-sentence. Enlin thought about it for a moment before deciding to relay the information he had obtained to the Celestial Larch. He pulled out a jade talisman and transmitted the information he had obtained to the Celestial Larch. A few minutes later, the Celestial Thearcha's reply came. Well done. The information you have provided is worth 5 million spirit stones. If you can enter the vast land of blood to gather more information, the starting price will be 10 million spirit stones with no upper limit. If you can obtain the Kirin blood jade, the Celestial Court is willing to purchase it for 50 million spirit stones. Enlin drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing this. This was an extremely tempting price. He relayed the Celestial Thearcha's reply to Su Xiaolan and Xiao Zhe. Su Xiaolan and Xiao Zhe were also a little tempted upon hearing this. Entering the vast land of blood to obtain 10 million spirit stones was an extremely tempting reward. Enlin thought about it for a moment before turning to the Jade Bone Immortal Bug. If the Divine Bat Emperor wants the Kirin Blood Jade, then doesn't that mean it has to guard the passageway leading to the vast land of blood? The Jade Bone Immortal Bug shook her head. The Divine Bat Emperor is currently keeping the other emperors at bay, so it has to guard the heavenly beast Divine Mountain. It and 3 Return to Void final stage mighty figures are drawing upon the power of the Divine Mountain to enhance their senses and power, thereby forming a formation to keep the other emperors at bay. The Nightmare Mudman is currently guarding the passageway in place of the Divine Bat Emperor, and it's its most trusted subordinate, the Divine Bat Emperor. It's a Return to Void final stage mighty figure, and it will inspect the spatial magic tools of all the beasts that come out of the passageway to see if there's a Kirin Blood Jade in it. If there's no Kirin Blood Jade, it'll let them pass? Unlin asked. That's right. If there's a treasure it's interested in, it'll exchange it for something of equal value, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug replied. Unlin felt like it was a good idea to give it a try. As long as they didn't cause too much of a ruckus and alert the Divine Bat Emperor, everything would be fine. Unlin, Little Xiao, can you escape from a Return to Void final stage enemy? Take us with you. Xiao Zhe. As long as it's not a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the Return to Void final stage, I have a 50% chance of escaping with you. If I use my mystic technique, I have a 90% chance of escaping with you. Alright. You wait outside, Xiaolan, and I will go in and give it a try. Unlin snapped his fingers and immediately made a decision. Chapter 787. The edge of your basin is a precipitous cliff? Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes at Unlin. It then seemed to have seen something, and it stared at the faces beneath the black robes with astonishment. Could it be that you guys are? The humanoid creature enshrouded in viscous black mist stood in midair, and 2 streaks of blue light flashed from a certain part of its body. It then nodded lightly before speaking to the group of beasts that Unlin and the others were in. You are the 18th and 19th team. Go forth, brave warriors of the beast tribe, and seek your opportunities. That place has everything you want. I wish you all the best of luck. The Crimson Vortex had a diameter of over 10,000 meters. The outer layer of the vortex was crimson, and the closer it was to the center, the more intense the crimson color became. At the very center, the crimson color had already become black. Master Nightmare, we have gathered 22 beasts. Please have a look. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug also flew toward the humanoid creature. Master Nightmare, we have gathered 72 beasts. Please have a look. The Flaming Falcon flew toward a humanoid creature enshrouded in viscous black mist and reported respectfully. Remember to go in the opposite direction of the Blood Star. That's the exit. Also, don't forget, after you see the black ball. Unlin scratched his head in bewilderment. They had arrived at a crater in the ground with extremely precipitous cliff faces all around them. It was as if the ground had been smashed down by a massive hammer. They weren't going to jump into the vortex, were they? The Jade Bone Immortal Bug's body swayed as it spoke in a slow voice. Believe it or not, this is a natural phenomenon. This is our tribe's heavenly pit, and it has existed since Pangu split heaven and earth apart. The Nightmare Mudman wouldn't check the identities of all the beasts that a mighty figure had brought with them. It would only count the number of beasts that they had brought with them. Thus, the 2 of them were able to successfully blend into the crowd of beasts and conceal themselves from the rest of the beasts. Don't mention it. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug heaved a forlorn sigh. Those beasts didn't listen to me, so I killed them all. I even dragged these 2 minotaurs here by force. You've only brought 2 with you. Who knows, the Nightmare Mudman might get angry. The Flaming Eagle gloated. Unlin stared blankly at the vortex and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Finally, the 2 of them followed the large group and arrived in front of an extremely large vortex. Unlin nodded heavily. Then, he felt that something was wrong. When the 2 forces converged, all they needed to do was to report the number of beasts. At this moment, an invisible force had already pushed it into the vortex. and Lin was a little nervous as he quietly tightened his grip on the woman beside him. Feeling the soft and delicate touch, he finally felt at ease. The Nightmare Mudman waved a hand, and a black bridge extended from the edge of the vortex all the way to the center before disappearing into the boundless darkness. It was as if a ferocious mouth was grinning maliciously, waiting for him to walk right into its trap. A crack began to appear. Before they knew it, they had reached the end of the bridge. Along the way, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug encountered another return to Void Stage immortal beast. This was a falcon enshrouded in blue flames, and there were close to 100 beast tribe powerful beings trailing behind it. Even though they could see the stone wall behind them, they couldn't see the other 3 walls as far as their eyes could see. They had already become a black line in their field of vision. The stone wall, which was close to a kilometer tall, was nothing more than a black line in their field of vision. One could imagine just how massive this crater was. And Lin, Xiao Zhe, Su Xiaolan, and the Jade Bone Immortal Bug arrived at a place where not even a single blade of grass could be seen. "Hey Jade Bone, why did you only bring 2 with you?" the Flaming Falcon asked. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug replied with a serious expression, "That's because they're lucky." This place is actually a basin?" Lin looked around with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "Didn't many soul formation stage beasts return safely?" Lin replied nonchalantly. Lin was a little perplexed. Why was this cowardly and talkative immortal beast the complete opposite of normal beasts? Normal beasts were usually ruthless and didn't care much about life and death. Even though it didn't affect one's intelligence, there were dangers lurking at every step. "The place we enter is different from the place we exit." "Master, don't blame me for being so long-winded. This place really is very strange. Even though it doesn't affect our intelligence, there are dangers lurking at every step. The place we enter is different from the place we exit." Holy F***ck. Were they really going to jump into a vortex? As for Lin and Su Xiaolan, they were both soul formation stage cultivators, so they had no problem disguising themselves as soul formation stage soul beasts. The Nightmare Mudman could detect the auras of cultivators, but it couldn't detect the species of their auras unless it focused its senses on a certain place. What a flat ground! It doesn't look like it was created by a spell technique at all. However, I don't believe that it was formed naturally. Xiao Zhe was also astonished. "Master, don't be too reckless in there. There are some places where even return to void stage mighty figures would be in danger," the Jade Bone Immortal Bug nagged as it flew through space. Xiao Zhe didn't have any objections. The divine sense of a return to void final stage mighty figure was far too powerful, and it was far too risky to try to conceal one's cultivation base from it. He didn't think it was strange that the Jade Bone Immortal Bug had killed all of the gathered beasts. However, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug really hadn't done a good job. That's right, it wasn't a door, nor was it a spatial passageway. Instead, it was a gargantuan crimson vortex. Everyone. Kacha, thus, the Jade Bone Immortal Bug led Lin and Su Xiaolan toward the center of the heavenly basin. Thus, all 3 of them turned their attention to the Jade Bone Immortal Bug. The Flaming Falcon weighed the spirit stones in its pouch to find that there were over 100,000 of them. "Alright, I'll help you out today. I'll give you 20 of them." Lin cursed internally, but he had no choice but to grit his teeth and follow the group. "Mr. Xiao Zhe, you can wait at the edge of the vortex. We're about 300 kilometers away from the Nightmare Mudman. If we get too close, the Nightmare Mudman might detect us," the Jade Bone Immortal Bug said. All of the beasts in the front began to leap into the vortex one after another. This was an impeccable answer. It forced them to believe that this was a natural phenomenon, but there was no way to refute it. A hesitant expression appeared on the Jade Bone Immortal Bug's face before it tossed a pouch of spirit stones to the Flaming Falcon. "Let my 2 minotaurs infiltrate your group. Then, we'll use this group of beasts as a bridge between our 2 groups." Lin didn't know what this crimson vortex was made of, but he could sense that there seemed to be some kind of spatial power at the bottom of the vortex. "Don't be afraid, I'm right beside you," Su Xiaolan said in a low voice. Their surroundings were very quiet. Even though it was a vortex, it was an extremely tranquil vortex. Enlin and Su Xiaolan held hands as they also leaped into the boundless vortex of darkness. Their bodies were completely inundated. The jade bone immortal bug continued to babble incessantly. Its voice was quite pleasant to the ears, but it was also very long-winded. Chapter 788. Gasp. I was insta-killed? Thus, the two of them began to wander around this strange place. Su Xiaolan looked up into the sky, and her clear eyes reflected the sea of stars, making her eyes even more dazzling than the stars themselves. According to the jade bone immortal bug, the exit they were looking for was right there. A thoughtful expression appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Are all beasts so lawless after entering a mystic realm? The earth tremored violently. Perhaps we're just lucky? Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed slightly as she turned her gaze elsewhere. Aside from the rolling black earth, there really was nothing else. Su Xiaolan's lips twitched. You used to call them Daddy Gundams, but now you're calling them Cannon Fodder Gundams. You've really changed. And Lin interjected, let's see if there's anything good around us. I heard that all of the beasts heading toward the Blood Star have died, so I'm really curious to see what there is. And Lin chuckled. I do agree with what it said. Not only do we have rare treasures, but we can also kill beasts for their treasures. Our luck sure is good. There were no other beasts around them aside from the two of them. Ah, my Gundam 1 and Gundam 2. And Lin, look. There's a speck of green light over there. Su Xiaolan exclaimed with excitement. And Lin felt a finger move in his hand, and he turned toward Su Xiaolan to find that Su Xiaolan was also looking at him. No. Su Xiaolan immediately objected. Did you forget? The jade bone immortal bug said that we'll be suppressed by the stars if we fly here? He had never seen what the stars looked like, so he was very curious. Ha 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 ha. Look what I found. A blade of grass. At this moment, a huge cow beast with white fur all over its body chortled with glee. Boom. And Lin fell silent. The two of them climbed over a hill and found that there was indeed a speck of green light at the bottom of the hill. It was a blade of grass that was glowing with a green light, and it appeared to be of a fairly high rank. How about we try to fly? After all, walking isn't as fast as flying, Enlin said after hesitating for a moment. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes at Enlin and led the way. Enlin's spirits rose, and he turned into a talkative man. The surroundings were simply too quiet. The sea of stars in the night sky didn't know how to speak, and the ground was a stretch of pitch-black rock without any living creatures. It seemed especially lonely and desolate, and Lin felt dizzy. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in an extremely unfamiliar place. The reason why it was unfamiliar was because this place was different from the vast land of blood that he had imagined. Xiaolan, look, it's the Big Dipper. Come out, Cannon Fodder Gundam 1 and Gundam 2. Looks like the landing spot will be randomly assigned. Since we're holding hands, we won't be separated. Su Xiaolan smiled. According to a beast tribe cultivator who happened to witness the scene, it witnessed a flying beast being blasted into mincemeat by the power of the stars. There was also a steel saber penguin that witnessed the death of its eagle companion, and it finally gave up on its wings in favor of crawling on the ground, thereby becoming the only surviving flying beast. Just as they were speaking, the 9 stars in the sky suddenly flashed at the same time. Enlin. Could it be that the story was fake? My God, could it be that we've entered the wrong gate? We've been walking for so long, but nothing's happened, Enlin muttered with a perplexed expression. The two of them approached the patch of green grass at the same time as carefully as possible, as if they were afraid that the grass would be impregnated and run away. You call that the Big Dipper when 7 stars are connected? He silently stowed away the Gundams before looking up at the stars in the sky with a hint of lingering fear in his heart. Spotting a rare treasure here was like picking up money from the ground, and it was very exciting. The superalloy heads of the Gundams were comparable to Return to Void stage super mighty figures, but they were instantly caved in as their bodies crashed to the ground like cannonballs. The white power of the stars suddenly descended from the sky and pierced through space before crashing heavily into the heads of the two Gundams. She looked around for a while before locking onto a crimson star in the sky. The yellow star is in the south and the blood star is in the north. Let's go to the place where the two stars are connected, then head toward the yellow star, and we'll be able to find the exit. The barren landscape around them was instantly transformed into a beautiful scenery. The vast land of blood sounded extremely bloody, and it felt like a place of chaos and evil. It was nothing like the scenery before their eyes. The night sky was filled with countless stars, and the ground was pitch black and undulating. And Lin couldn't help but recall what the Jade Bone Immortal Bug had told him, and he went over all the things that he had to pay attention to. This was a matter of life and death, so he couldn't afford to be careless. What else? 7 calabash stars? Su Xiaolan stared at it with a speechless expression. It's just a few stars that form a circle, and you're saying it looks like little Tian? And Lin and Su Xiaolan looked on with nervous expressions. Looks like the Jade Bone Immortal Bug was right. We'll really be suppressed by the stars if we fly into the sky, Su Xiaolan. It then turned its gaze elsewhere, upon which its eyes lit up at the sight of Lin and Su Xiaolan. 2 soul formation intermediate stage trash? Haha, not only do they have a rare treasure, but they can also kill beasts for their treasures. They sure are lucky. That's awesome. So these are natural treasures? Lin's eyes lit up. Su Xiaolan blinked. What method? Su Xiaolan was a little unsure. Could it be that the Gundams aren't living beings, so they won't be suppressed? The two Gundams received their orders and flew into the sky. Lin stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes with incredulity. How about we try something else? Lin suggested. A minute passed and nothing happened. 2 bottomless holes appeared before Lin and Su Xiaolan. Lin's heart jolted, and he immediately rushed over to pick up the 2 Gundams. Only Su Xiaolan was used to Lin's free-spirited behavior. Lin was also very elated. Looks like we've made the right choice. Hurry up and fly into the sky. Lin commanded. Haha, little Tian is round. Lin was very smug. Thankfully, Lin had Su Xiaolan with him. Lin's storage ring flashed, and 2 shiny silver mechanical constructs appeared. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug had told him that there were almost no flying beasts in this world. The 2 of them wandered around the legendary vast land of blood and chatted with one another, but they didn't encounter any dangerous environments. Heaven and earth spun, and the space around them changed. Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 seemed to have malfunctioned in their brains as they mumbled gibberish. Their bodies began to tremble involuntarily as sparks flew from the surface of their bodies. The 2 of them continued onward toward the line formed by the red star and the yellow star. Chapter 789. The White Bull chortled with glee at the sight of Lin's words. A mere soul formation intermediate stage piece of trash dares to spout nonsense at me? Let me show you my true power. All of its white fur stood on end as its vital energy surged forth like a tidal wave, and its cultivation base at the soul formation pinnacle stage erupted forth without reservation. The soul formation pinnacle stage could be said to be the highest cultivation base in this mystic realm. No wonder this white bull was so arrogant. Wow! It's so powerful! What a terrifying aura! Lin's expression shifted drastically in shock. Are you scared now? But even if you beg for mercy, I won't spare you. I'm hungry, I'm going to eat you. The white bull by the name of Ao Nyo chuckled coldly. A domain erupted forth from its body, and invisible ripples enshrouded the surroundings as a series of white horns materialized in the air, exuding a fearsome aura. Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. A powerful being at the soul formation pinnacle stage is truly terrifying. Aonyo was clearly very pleased with Enlin's reaction, and it chortled gleefully as it pounced toward Enlin. Xiaolan, watch me! Enlin also sprinted toward Aonyo. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. She couldn't be bothered to watch Enlin indulge in his own wild fantasies. Instead, she focused her attention on the green blade of grass and cast a protective spell technique on it so that it wouldn't be affected by the battle. Moo! What an arrogant bastard! Aonyo ran on all fours with its head facing Enlin, and the white bull horns materialized around its domain engulfed heaven and earth as they stabbed toward Enlin in a frenzy. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a series of sharp white horns tore through the air toward the white-robed man. Each and every one of the horns was imbued with Aonyo's paramount understanding of the Tao of horns, and they were powerful enough to pulverize the bodies of all soul formation stage soul beasts. A white light flashed past Enlin's eyes, and the flying horns slowed down in his field of vision. Immediately afterward, his body was like a phantom as he evaded all of the attacks. What a stubborn domain! What? Aonyo's expression shifted drastically, and a dazzling white light erupted from its horns, which were imbued with a terrifying sharpness as it stabbed toward Enlin. A golden light flashed on Enlin's forehead as he activated his Earth Lotus Supreme skill to its fullest extent. Golden light enveloped his fist as he punched toward the bull's horns. Rumble! The fist and the bull's horn collided, causing a deafening explosion. The terrifying energy shockwave caused the ground within a radius of 1,000 meters to shatter. The power of the earth contained in the fist swept forward. Kacha! The sound of something shattering rang out. The surface of Aonyo's most precious horn began to crack. Moo! Aonyo let loose a wail of anguish as its body was blasted flying by a terrifying force, and it tumbled to the ground with blood gushing from its mouth. How is this possible? Aren't you only at the soul formation intermediate stage? How is he so powerful? Aonyo stared at Enlin with incredulity on its face. Enlin didn't say anything. He stepped forward, and his body flashed toward Aonyo as his fist fell again. Boom! 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 Golden light flashed as energy exploded. Aonyo howled in anguish as if its body had been struck by a massive mountain over and over again, and it threw up blood over and over again. Save! Save me! Spare me! Aonyo was on the brink of death, and it was so dizzy that it couldn't even plead for its life. I'll give you all of my treasures, Aonyo continued. Enlin's fist stopped upon hearing this before he turned to look at Aonyo. I, Enritian, am a man of my word. I said I was going to kill the beast for its treasures, so I'll do it. How can I only take the treasures without killing the beast? Aonyo almost shed tears upon hearing this. Spare me, I'll take you to a good place with real treasures. Enlin was confused. You're not going to take the treasures? Aonyo averted its gaze with an awkward expression. I'm not powerful enough. Enlin was finally tempted upon hearing this. Even a soul beast at the soul formation pinnacle stage couldn't do anything to it, so it looked like the treasure wouldn't be too bad. Alright, I'll spare your life for now. Enlin stood up and extended a hand toward Aonyo. Aonyo was extremely touched by Enlin's outstretched hand, but it thought about it for a moment before replying in a reserved manner. No need for that, I can get up on my own. Enlin's expression darkened. What are you talking about? I'm telling you to give me your storage ring. Tears streamed down Aonyo's face again. Enlin left a regenerative spirit pill for Aonyo in a very humane manner before looking through the storage ring. 1 spirit tool, 6 spirit pills, and 200,000 spirit stones. Poor. Enlin organized his bag again. During the battle in the Phoenix Small World, he had plundered Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi, and Bai Pengzi's belongings, so his wallet was bulging again. Including Aonyo's belongings, he had obtained 4 6,000,000 spirit stones, 25 spirit tools, 100 spirit pills, 20 spirit fruits, and 3 immortal pills. Not taking into account anything else, just those several million spirit stones had given Lin a sense of security again. He sighed with emotion. Sure enough, his wealth was built on a pile of bones. Stealing treasures really was a shortcut to riches. Stay here and don't run around. Lin had initially planned to establish a slave contract with this cow, but he decided against it after thinking about it for a moment. He couldn't be bothered to waste his blood essence. The slave contract had to be at least at the return to void stage. Lin made his way over to Su Xiaolan, and they both looked at the glowing green blade of grass. It was glittering and translucent, and it was as beautiful as jade. The energy fluctuations are very powerful. It looks like a high-rank immortal herb that can be used to refine immortal pills. Su Xiaolan commented. Let me touch it and see what kind of immortal herb it is. Lin squatted down and uprooted the green blade of grass before unleashing his divine inspection technique. Azure Blood Immortal Herb was a third-rank immortal herb that grew in the vast land of blood. It was nourished by the aura of the demonic blood Kirin and was imbued with extremely powerful life force energy. Consumption of this herb could heal one's injuries at an extremely fast rate. Here's a third-rank regenerative immortal herb. This is good stuff, take it, Xiaolan. Lin passed the immortal herb to Xiaolan. All regenerative immortal rank treasures were extremely valuable as they could save a person's life at a critical juncture. Lin, what are you giving it to me for? I don't want it. Su Xiaolan didn't take it. My skin is thick, so I won't get injured. You should keep it and listen to me. Lin continued to try to persuade her. Aonyo couldn't help but ask, how about I hold it for you? What do you say to me? Shut up. Lin and Su Xiaolan yelled in unison. He even glared at Aonyo as he spoke. Aonyo shuddered and didn't dare to move. Holy F***ck. These two humans are so weird. Wait, humans? Aonyo finally came to its senses, and it stared at Lin and Su Xiaolan in astonishment. You're humans? How did you get here? Lin faltered slightly before turning to Aonyo. Don't tell me you've only just realized this? Is your reflex arc really that slow? Su Xiaolan burst into laughter. It knows too much. How about we just kill it? Aonyo's legs gave out from under him again, and it almost knelt down. What a loose tongue. Chapter 790. I'm not an ordinary cow with no intelligence. There was no need for that. All right. Lin immediately agreed. Also, with this cow we don't have to walk by ourselves. We can just ride it and save energy. Even an ox at the peak of the divine transformation stage as a coolie wouldn't be degrading. Lin's eyes lit up. Snatch the treasure from the corpses of the guards. After cultivating for so long, this was his first time encountering something so exciting. Lin replied in a slow voice, I discovered that Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 haven't been repaired yet, so they don't have any cannon fodder to act as vanguards. Hence, just to be safe alright. Su Xiaolan felt like this made sense. It was one thing to carry a person and walk, but what kind of operation was it to hit its butt with a spiritual weapon? What treasure? Lin asked. Were these two humans normal? It was said that they were manifested from the blood energy of the fallen demonic blood Kirin. They had no self-awareness, but they were extremely bloodthirsty and would attack anyone they saw. Most of the demonic blood beasts resided in places with treasures, but there were also some who roamed the vast land of blood. The Jade Bone Immortal Bug had already introduced the demonic blood beasts to Lin and the others. Pah! It's such a coward. We haven't even fought and it's already deserting. Su Xiaolan couldn't help but laugh. Lin looked over at the corpse of the giant bird and discovered 3 beasts that appeared to be covered in blood. One was a giant red flying tiger, one was a crimson WRM, and one was a 6-winged ape. And what the hell were the cowherd boy and the cowherd girl? The cries were extremely miserable and earth-shattering, and even the 3 demonic blood beasts beside the corpse were startled. Su Xiaolan quickly comforted her. "Don't worry. We will do our best to protect you. After all, we can't bear to part with such a good mount. I'm only asking you to make the first move, not to send you to your death. You have to be more open-minded." Ao Nyo silently sped up and finally arrived at their destination after walking for an hour. "Do you like to hurt my heart that much?" Ao Nyo. On a black land there was a blood-red lake rippling. Ao Nyo choked on a mouthful of blood. "Why did you have to pierce my heart?" In the end, the azure blood immortal herb was given to Su Xiaolan. Unfortunately, it died, and it died extremely miserably because its head was missing. "Come on, Ao Nyo." Unfortunately, no one gave it a match. An awkward expression appeared on Ao Nyo's face. "I didn't fight them, but my instincts told me that I couldn't defeat them." Lin was bored out of his mind, so he gave Ao Nyo a whip. "Actually, I feel that no matter how strong they are, they shouldn't be much stronger than me. It's just that there are more of them, so I don't dare to act rashly." Ao Nyochi felt that it was time for him to save face, so he explained why he didn't dare to fight the enemy. Ao Nyo's eyes widened as tears flowed from its eyes. None of them had a cultivation base, and they were no longer living beings. However, the terrifying energy fluctuations they emitted were still enough to make one's heart palpitate. Ao Nyo had tears streaming down its face. What the hell was third gear? Who could tell it? The lake was not big, about a kilometer in diameter. Lin pulled out a whip and lashed it toward Ao Nyo's rump. Ao Nyo instantly burst into tears as its grief flowed like a river. Lin unleashed his divine sense, but he was still a little unsure. "They're more powerful than you? How much more powerful are they?" Ao Nyo burst into tears again. "Did you guys ask me how I feel before making this decision?" Su Xiaolan nodded in agreement. Lin and Su Xiaolan made a simple chair and strapped it to Ao Nyo's back before sitting on it. Ao Nyo trembled uncontrollably, terrified that Lin and Su Xiaolan would kill it to keep it quiet. In terms of power, they were all different and their techniques were all unpredictable. Lin and Su Xiaolan turned toward Ao Nyo. Ao Nyo shuddered with fear, and it spoke in a panicked voice. "Don't do anything rash. I can take you to that treasure, have you forgotten?" Lin and Su Xiaolan both looked at Ao Nyo with malicious intent in their eyes. Most importantly, there seemed to be a flashing red light at the center of its body, as if it were a beating heart, but also as if it were the energy fluctuations of some kind of treasure. "What the f***ck? That's right, but there are 3 overly powerful demonic blood beasts guarding the carcass, so I can't obtain that treasure by myself." Ao Nyo's expression was still a little disappointed as it spoke. "Not much more powerful than you? That makes 3 pieces of trash. Let's go, Xiaolan." Lin chuckled. There were a series of ghastly gashes all over its body, revealing its crimson flesh and bones, as if it had been torn apart by some kind of terrifying power. Ao Nyo grumbled internally, but it maintained a smile on its face. "Be gentle, senior. They had encountered far too many violent beasts recently, and Ao Nyo was very pleasing to the eye. This was the way to be a cute beast." Lin was a little disappointed. "But I won't be able to experience what it's like to herd cows anymore. I'm going to be a cowherd." This was a gargantuan crimson bird with a wingspan of over 10,000 meters. If it were to fly into the sky, it would definitely be able to blot out the entire sky. "Why were you so clueless when you were fighting me?" Lin chuckled coldly. Ao Nyo suddenly felt like the world was so cold, and it really wanted the warmth of a small matchstick. Thus, Ao Nyo continued onward with the 2 of them on its back. Were you really that clueless back then? Do you really have fun toying with me and mocking me with all your might? Senior, I'm a highly intelligent creature, and I can understand human speech. If you want to leave, just say the word. Can you not spank my bum?" Aon-yo was on the verge of tears. Su Xiaolan detected the change in Enlin's expression, and a smile appeared on her face. Then let's go and have a look. There's some good stuff that we can't miss. Enlin still had some regenerative immortal pills in his storage ring, so he really didn't need that many. Enlin and Su Xiaolan looked at each other with smiles on their faces. This cow was very sensible. Slap. Slow down. Moo. You're bullying cows. You've gone too far, Moo. I don't know. The treasure is inside a carcass, and the guards are very strong, so it's definitely not an ordinary treasure. Aon-yo replied. Aon-yo bawled as tears streamed down its face. Speed up. Slap. Su Xiaolan nodded in agreement. I've always yearned for the carefree life of a cowherd girl. It's great that I have a chance to experience it now. He spoke with an elated expression. Enlin took a deep breath. Is the treasure you're talking about where that red light is? Aon-yo. Aren't you guys going to go up there? Why are you looking at me? If only it was a bit more powerful. Then, the treasure in the giant bird's possession would be its. Hey. Don't slow down so much, third gear is fine. It had had enough of this torture. To it, this was the humiliation of a lifetime. It was most likely extremely powerful when it was alive, so its body didn't decay even after death. Furthermore, it was still exuding extremely terrifying energy fluctuations. The carcass beside the lake was the real deal. Chapter 791. All three demonic blood beasts turned toward Enlin and the others at the same time. Howl, howl, howl. One of the six-winged apes pounded its own chest as it roared. It then abruptly rose into the air before pouncing toward Enlin and the others at an extremely fast speed. Aon-yo's expression shifted drastically with fear, and it immediately unleashed its domain to materialize over 100 extremely sharp cow horns, which all of them hurtled toward the six-winged ape. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The cow horns were like flying daggers or sharp swords, and they transformed into streaks of white light that tore through the air. The six-winged ape extended its crimson fingernails that were even longer than its fingers and slashed violently toward the oncoming cow horns. Rip! A crimson blade pierced through heaven and earth, and the cries of billions of demonic creatures erupted as it sliced the bull's horn in half. Then, it continued onward toward Aon-yo, leaving a devastating trail of despair in its wake. Aon-yo was dumbstruck at the sight of the oncoming crimson blade. Never would it have thought that its attack would be broken by a demonic blood beast with a single strike. What kind of power was this? All of this happened too abruptly, and the attack was too fast, so it was impossible for it to dodge. However, just when Aon-yo thought it was going to be sliced in half, a woman in a jade dress appeared before it, and a long sword imbued with the power of dragons and phoenixes was unsheathed. Clang! A sword projection surged forth like lightning and was as dazzling as lightning, as if a heavenly dragon had descended upon this world. Aon-yo only saw lightning flash before its eyes, and the crimson blade that had struck it into despair was shattered by the woman in a jade dress. So powerful! Aon-yo murmured to itself as its eyes widened. It had initially thought that this soul formation intermediate stage human male was already a freak due to his absurd power. Never would it have thought this soul formation intermediate stage human female would also be this freakishly powerful. Soul formation intermediate stage was so terrifying. Aon-yo felt like its cultivation base at the soul formation pinnacle stage was fake. The six-winged ape immediately turned its attention to Su Xiaolan upon seeing that its attack had been blocked, and it slashed its claws toward her. As the sharp claws descended, space itself emitted a piercing screech because of the terrifying sharpness of the claws. Su Xiaolan wielded the dragon sparrow sword, and the bright blue lightning blade was replaced by a scorching blade of flames as white holy vermilion flames swept forth. Boom! In that instant, the scorching flames soared into the sky, transforming into an earth-shattering sword projection that crashed into the six-winged ape's claws with unstoppable force. The terrifying flames incinerated everything in the surroundings, breaking through the six-winged ape-man's claw attack and tearing the six-winged ape-man's body in half with a flame might that could incinerate space itself. Howl! The six-winged ape howled in agony as the holy flames continued to burn its tenacious body, and in the end its blood-colored body was vaporized by the holy flames like a liquid. The green-robed female sword immortal, holy flame lingering around her petite body, stood proudly like a celestial being. Anlin was dumbstruck. Aonyo was also dumbstruck. Such a terrifying sword strike, it suddenly felt like there was a massive disparity between them. Su Xiaolan was able to slay it with a single sword strike, and it probably wouldn't even get a chance to cry out. Su Xiaolan turned to glare at Anlin. What are you still standing there for? Do you like being a spectator that much? Anlin came to his senses and replied, I've actually been thinking about something for a while now. What is it? Su Xiaolan asked. Why isn't the six-winged ape being suppressed by the stars in the sky? Anlin was perplexed. Su Xiaolan. That's a good question, but is it really a good idea to be thinking about something like that in the face of a powerful enemy? Su Xiaolan took a deep breath before speaking. It's all right you're here. I trust you'll protect me, Anlin replied. He then felt like something wasn't quite right. A vibrant smile suddenly appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she stared at Anlin. You've really evoked my desire to protect you. The other two demonic blood beasts finally realized that their enemy was not to be underestimated upon seeing the six-winged ape being slain. The crimson WRM and the red flying tiger roared in unison as they pounced toward Su Xiaolan. The crimson WRM opened its cavernous mouth, and energy began to accumulate within its body as ripples proliferated outward, making the space around it tremble. The red flying tiger swiped its claws through the air, and a wave of blood over a kilometer tall surged forth. Su Xiaolan stood atop her sword, and her eyes turned a pure golden color as the might of the true dragon and vermilion bird erupted forth at the same time. An indescribably terrifying might made Aonyo's legs give out from under him, and it knelt to the ground. The green-clothed woman's delicate hands formed a strange hand seal, like a dragon or a phoenix. Her voice was clear and ethereal. Fine, I'll let you be a salted fish for once and let you see my true strength. True dragon lightning bind. Chains of lightning materialized in her hands before multiplying into 100, piercing through space and tearing through the surging wave of blood at an incredible speed before binding tightly around the crimson WRM and the flying tiger. Howl! Energy erupted from the crimson WRM's mouth. The inky black breath engulfed all things and obscured the night sky. Su Xiaolan raised her head as a sharp yet holy might flashed through her eyes. Vermilion bird god slaying. This time, a pair of white flaming wings appeared on Su Xiaolan's back, making her appear as if she were a holy maiden from the heavens. Holy flames surged from her body, and her body combined to form a flaming vermilion bird. The dragon sparrow sword flew into the air again before landing in her hand. The inky black breath was right before her eyes, but her eyes remained completely expressionless, as if she were a holy beast that had no regard for all life. Not only did Aonyo kneel on all fours this time, but even its head was buried deep into the ground. It felt like it was facing a real holy beast. The disparity between their life forms struck an indescribable sense of reverence and fear into its heart. This was a holy beast. This was a legendary existence that was on a higher level than immortal beasts and mythological beasts. How could it not be shocked? However, Anlin didn't have that kind of feeling. He felt very relaxed, as if the terrifying aura was intentionally avoiding him, allowing him to admire her beauty and power. The woman slashed her sword toward the inky black breath. Heaven and earth fell silent at this moment. White holy flames and terrifying sharpness fused together to form the only source of light. Heaven and earth began to burn, and space began to crumble. Nothing could stand in the way of this sword strike. The inky black breath that engulfed all things was pulverized by the white sword strike. The crimson wyrm and flying tiger that were bound by the true dragon lightning bind didn't even get a chance to cry out before they were sliced in half by the terrifying sharpness. They were then engulfed by boundless holy flames and reduced to nothingness. The holy flames dissipated. Su Xiaolan's face was a little pale, but her eyes were extremely bright. She turned to look at Enlin, and wisps of holy flames danced around her like fairies as her hair danced in the wind. In that instant she truly was a peerless beauty. Enlin, my sword strike was pretty good, right? Chapter 792. It wanted to obtain an inheritance? Even if it really did obtain an inheritance, it would probably be stuffed to death. Enlin pulled out his evil slaying sword, which exuded a sharp black sword projection before slowly slicing open the bird's back. Su Xiaolan's footsteps faltered slightly, and she shot a speechless glance at Enlin and Su Xiaolan before continuing toward the crimson bird. A smug smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face upon seeing that Enlin and Su Xiaolan were still in a daze. He thought to himself for a moment before asking, "Xiaolan, do you think that thing glowing red in its body is the Kirin blood jade?" Aon Yo shuddered, and it immediately ran toward the crimson bird's leg. "Moo! I think it's best not to be too aggressive. Let's slowly climb up from here. If there are any parts that are in contact with the ground, then it shouldn't count as flying." Strictly speaking, they were sitting on Aon Yo's back, so technically, they were off the ground. The two of them speculated that the suppression from the stars might have something to do with the fact that there were no objects in contact with the ground. Enlin blinked. Then, what if the demonic blood Kirin was swallowed by the crimson bird? Gasped. So high. Enlin looked up at the massive chest with curiosity. Will we be suppressed by the stars if we fly straight up? Enlin's eyes lit up as he thought of a more reliable method. Su Xiaolan nodded silently. She didn't get a reply, but this was the best answer. The three of them stood outside, not daring to make any rash moves. Enlin's pupils contracted slightly as he stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before him. Su Xiaolan shook her head with a cautious expression. "I don't know, but we have to be careful. This is most likely a seal left behind by a mythological beast. If that power were to erupt, we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves. Perhaps it's even a Tao integration stage mythological beast," Enlin speculated. Aon Yo's body shuddered. Aon Yo was afraid that Enlin and Su Xiaolan would back out as it spoke, and it immediately pounced toward the crimson bird's leg. No matter what, it had to latch onto the bird's leg first. What should we do next? Enlin gulped as he looked at the dazzling seal in front of him and murmured. The unscrupulous duo looked at each other and smiled. This huge white cow was quite adorable at times. They hadn't even said anything yet, and Aon Yo was already leading the way, a sword ray that could steal the color of heaven and earth, a power that could topple mountains and overturn seas, a sword slash that was a combination of magnificence and power. It was simply the most stunning move in the world. Why? The seal that appeared in front of the two of them was like a treasure that contained great danger. Danger and temptation coexisted. It all depended on whether they had the courage to take that step. What a joke, a rune left behind by a divine beast. No matter how you looked at it, the risk was greater than the opportunity. "Try asking Aon Yo next time," Enlin said in a low voice. The red light that appeared before them wasn't a heart, a blood jade, or some kind of divine object. It was a seal. As the crimson bird's body was sliced open, the red light became more and more dazzling. In this pitch-black world, it was like the brightest star in the sky. No, what if it's an inheritance or a power-type seal? If we're acknowledged by the seal, then wouldn't that be too much for it? Enlin objected. He made a hand seal, and water vapor condensed to instantly materialize an Enlin with the exact same aura as him. What was a seal? It could be a carrier of information, energy, spell techniques, or even a type of power or inheritance. And Lin too walked along the sliced open crimson bird's body and safely arrived before the seal floating in front of its chest. It extended its hands and touched the edge of the seal as its eyes turned snowy white. She didn't know how to respond to that. Divine inspection technique, activate. And Lin came to his senses and followed behind the woman in a jade dress like a lackey. Xiaolan, you're the best. And Lin nodded in agreement. Just the ancient and boundless aura emanating from it, as well as the remnant might that remained even after countless years, was enough to prove that the seal was no ordinary seal. Su Xiaolan fell silent. This was the essence of his water-type cultivation method, a derivative spell technique of the first stage of the divine liquid creation technique, the water clone technique. After attaining initial success in his body of the war god, his water clone could already use a portion of his main body's power, as well as his divine inspection technique. This was a seal that was flashing erratically and exuding an extremely terrifying aura. Why would there be a seal here? And Lin couldn't help but ask. There were still wisps of extremely fearsome energy lingering within the feather. Even just one of them could probably be used to create a decent magic tool. Moo! This is the place. Aonyo ran over to a certain spot on the crimson bird's back before speaking to Su Xiaolan and Enlin. Enlin decided to use his water clone to approach the seal and unleash his divine inspection technique first. That way, he would be able to identify the type of seal. After identifying the type of seal, he would then decide whether his main body would be able to approach the seal. This was the safest method. Just how big was a crimson bird that was over 10,000 meters in length? It was as if its body had come into contact with the ground. How about we get Aonyo to give it a try? Su Xiaolan suggested. That sword strike wasn't just decent. Su Xiaolan burst into laughter. This bird isn't the demonic blood Kirin, so why would the Kirin blood jade be in its body? I don't know. The demonic blood beasts from before were perhaps special beings, which was why they weren't affected. How about we find someone to test it out on? Su Xiaolan was a little hesitant. This is, after encountering Enlin and Su Xiaolan, Aonyo knew what it was capable of. Enlin and Su Xiaolan made their way to the crimson bird's feet and looked up at the crimson bird's chest, where a pulsating red light resembling a crimson sun was. It had arrived directly above the crimson light. Enlin too pursed its lips and silently made its way toward the massive crimson seal. A chill ran down Aonyo's spine, and it involuntarily picked up its pace. Aonyo heaved a sigh of relief. Don't worry. I'm not going to fight you for it. I'm not interested in seals, so you guys can do it. Go, Enlin too, Enlin said. After slicing open its back, a crimson space appeared before Enlin. Even after so many years, the massive bird's feathers still glowed with a faint red light. It could probably flatten an entire city just by lying flat on the ground. Enlin was exasperated. The problem is, there's no one here. Moo! What a terrifying aura! It's been dead for who knows how long, but it's still emitting such a terrifying aura. The closer Aonyo got to the crimson bird, the more its heart trembled, and all of its fur stood on end. This was the place where the demonic blood Kirin had fallen, so it seemed plausible that the Kirin and the crimson bird had perished together. Aonyo also wanted to express its reverence, but it couldn't think of any good words after thinking for a long time. In the end, it could only offer a sincere expression of praise. Bad *SS. However, they weren't being oppressed by the stars. It could be said that aside from the heavenly void beast, this was the largest living being that Enlin had ever seen. This could be deduced from the fact that they weren't using any power to propel themselves into the air or that they were touching the ground. The latter was the most likely scenario. A faint smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. But there's a cow. It was constructed from crimson blood, had a peculiar bird-like shape, and exuded an ancient aura. All of this indicated just how extraordinary this sigil was. Su Xiaolan and Aonyo also wore expressions of incredulity on their faces. However, Enlin didn't plan to pull it out. Instead, he decided to slice the crimson bird into several parts before stowing the entire head into his storage ring. Enlin and Aonyo were both dumbstruck. Enlin followed along as Aonyo grabbed onto the crimson bird's leg and quickly climbed upward. The stars in the sky didn't react in any way, so Enlin followed along with Aonyo. Su Xiaolan, I can sense some residual power of the divine Tao. This dead bird is no ordinary bird. It's at least a mighty figure at the return to void pinnacle stage, Su Xiaolan said. It was just like how their feet were separated from the ground by their shoes. Technically speaking, they were still floating in the air, but why weren't they being oppressed by the stars? The sigil was very small compared to the bird, but it was gigantic to Enlin and the others. At the very least, it was a lot larger than a human. Let's go and see if there's anything good on that crimson bird's body. Su Xiaolan broke the silence. Chapter 793. Information was shared between the doppelganger and the main body. Enlin too used his divine inspection technique on the sigil, and the information he obtained was naturally transmitted into his mind. Tao Intense Sigil of the Mutant Blood Phoenix. It was formed naturally from the Tao inscriptions left behind by the mutant blood phoenix after its failed rebirth. Not only did it contain the extremely powerful power of the phoenix, but it also contained the most powerful Tao intent technique of the phoenix during its lifetime, falling star setting sun. This is a mythological beast? And it's a mutant blood phoenix that failed rebirth? Enlin was astonished. Su Xiaolan's brows also perked up upon hearing this. Such an unfamiliar aura. It's a phoenix? Enlin stroked his chin. Could it be that it's so unfamiliar because of the phoenix's mutation? After all, this B***starred failed rebirth. It's a disgrace to the mighty phoenix tribe. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes at Enlin. Failure is very normal, okay? Little Huang, who successfully transformed into a golden egg, is the minority. She then asked, by the way, what type of sigil is this? Enlin smiled. Our luck is off the charts. That's the vessel for the phoenix's power and technique. Just as the two of them were speaking, the light from the sigil suddenly became extremely dazzling, as if it had been stimulated by something. Enlin too was just touching the crimson sigil when a crimson power suddenly began to spread from his hand to his entire body, and an extremely terrifying energy wreaked havoc within his body. Ah! Enlin too let loose a wail of anguish as his body exploded into a cloud of water. Enlin and Su Xiaolan's expressions shifted drastically upon seeing this, and Aonyo immediately turned tail and fled. The crisp cry of a phoenix erupted from the sigil. Immediately afterward, the sigil transformed into a crimson flaming phoenix that tore through the air toward Su Xiaolan. Could it be voluntarily acknowledging me? A hint of elation appeared on Enlin's face upon seeing this. It was very difficult to force a rune of this level to recognize a master, but because of some kind of attraction, it could make absorbing the power of the rune extremely simple. Su Xiaolan's expression became grave at that moment. No. This energy was too strong. My body won't be able to take it. The blood-red phoenix was like a flaming meteor that surged through the sky. Everywhere it passed, everything melted, and even space warped without end as if it would collapse at any moment. Su Xiaolan hurriedly retreated to avoid it, but the blood-colored phoenix formed by the seal seemed to have locked onto her, and actually pursued her relentlessly. Enlin was furious. How dare he pursue Xiaolan without his consent? Courting death. He spread his wings of wind and appeared in front of Su Xiaolan in a flash. He took out the hardest chaotic alloy brick in the world and placed it in front of her. Boom! The blood-colored phoenix crashed into the black brick, and like a crimson liquid, it dispersed into a series of crimson lines that brushed past Enlin from both sides of the black brick before condensing into a crimson phoenix again and flying toward Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan's speed was not as fast as the blood-colored phoenix, and she unleashed several spell techniques in succession, all of which were engulfed by the phoenix's terrifying power. Xiaolan! Anlin roared in a panicked voice. Boom! The blood-colored phoenix crashed into Su Xiaolan's body, and the power of the phoenix and Dao will instantly engulfed Su Xiaolan's entire body. The woman groaned in pain and fell to the ground, her body trembling uncontrollably as a crimson phoenix insignia appeared on the back of her hand. Anlin rushed toward Su Xiaolan like a madman and held her in his arms, only to find that he felt as if he were hugging a piece of burning charcoal. Xiaolan! Xiaolan, are you all right? In the face of those shouts, the woman closed her eyes in pain and said with great difficulty, Leave quickly! I feel like I can't hold on any longer, and the power of the phoenix in my body is going to explode at any moment. I beg of you, hurry up and leave me. Anlin shuddered upon hearing this. How could he leave in such a situation? What do I do? The power of the insignia is too powerful, and Su Xiaolan really won't be able to hold on any longer. Anlin was extremely anxious, and he inadvertently glanced at the insignia on the back of her hand, upon which his eyes abruptly lit up. The power of the insignia was closely related to the insignia, so if he wanted to expel the power of the insignia, he just had to destroy the insignia. There was no time for hesitation. He could only give it a try. Anlin pointed a finger toward the crimson phoenix insignia, and a destructive power burst forth from his fingertip. Boom! The insignia on the back of Su Xiaolan's hand glowed with a brilliant light, and it began to resist violently as a fearsome power instantly shattered the power that Anlin was sending toward her. Anlin's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and he activated the origin energy of the netherworld without any hesitation as his aura swelled explosively once again. Boom! A golden light burst forth from Anlin's fingertip, clashing with the crimson light of the phoenix insignia before finally coming to a stalemate. Su Xiaolan groaned in pain as blood trickled down the corner of her lips, and her body was on the brink of collapse. She struggled to open her eyes and stared silently at the man before her, as if she was trying to engrave his face into her heart for all eternity. Anlin was extremely panicked, but he still tried to comfort Su Xiaolan as the power on his fingertip continued to blast toward the insignia. The power of the phoenix was still wreaking havoc as it resisted Anlin's power with its most arrogant stance. Right at this moment, within Anlin's sea of vital energy, the white vermilion bird seemed to have sensed something, and it looked up into the sky before letting loose a clear cry. All of a sudden, heaven and earth fell silent. Boundless light burst forth from Anlin's fingertip as holy and unstoppable white flames erupted forth. It was as if he were the lord of all flames, and the power of the phoenix was forced to submit to him, thereby suppressing the power of the insignia. However, after a brief moment of submission, the power of the mutant blood phoenix suddenly erupted forth, surging toward Anlin's fingertip with the same momentum that it had used to pounce toward Su Xiaolan. The power of the crimson phoenix began to shift. Everything happened far too abruptly, and even Anlin was momentarily dumbstruck. Immediately afterward, the terrifying power of flames rampaged through his body. At the same time, a burst of information surged into his mind. This was information imbued with paramount Tao intent, and it was the inheritance of the mutant blood phoenix's most powerful technique, the falling star setting sun technique. The power of the mutant blood phoenix also surged into Anlin's sea of vital energy, and a series of vein-like crimson lines began to appear on the white vermilion bird's body. After the crimson lines appeared, they disappeared again. The vermilion bird's body became more substantial, and its eyes also became a little more intelligent. Anlin, are you all right? Let go of me. Su Xiaolan tried to pry the insignia on the back of her hand away from Anlin's fingertip, but to her surprise, Anlin's other hand clamped down on her in a death grip. She was completely powerless, so there was no way she could break free. The crimson insignia on the back of her hand slowly disappeared, and as the power of the insignia diminished, Su Xiaolan's breathing also became a lot calmer. However, the crimson insignia on the back of Enlin's hand was slowly spreading. The power of the phoenix within his body was also becoming more and more fearsome, as if it were trying to incinerate his entire body. The power of the seal left behind by a Tao integration stage mythological beast was simply too terrifying, and even his body of the war god might not be able to handle it. However, Enlin didn't regret his decision. He calmly allowed the power of the phoenix to flow into his body without any resistance. Regardless of whether his body could handle it or not, he was willing to take the brunt of that terrifying power in Su Xiaolan's place. Time slowly passed by. The crimson insignia on Su Xiaolan's hand suddenly stopped shrinking. The crimson insignia on Enlin's hand also stopped expanding. Both of them panted heavily as they stared at each other's hands with dumbstruck expressions. Both of them had half of a crimson phoenix insignia on the back of their hands, and when combined, they formed a complete phoenix. Chapter 794. What's going on? Did we disintegrate the power of the mutant blood phoenix? Enlin blinked in confusion. Su Xiaolan swallowed a blood spirit pill and sat up with difficulty. She wiped the beads of sweat from her forehead and stared at the crimson insignia on the back of her hand. I can feel that the flame power within my body has increased significantly, and I've obtained the complete inheritance of the fallen star setting sun. Su Xiaolan paused momentarily before turning to Enlin with a hint of elation in her eyes. What about you? Are there any changes? Enlin nodded. The flame power within my body has also increased significantly, and I've also obtained the inheritance of the fallen star setting sun. He looked at the insignia on his hand with incredulity. Is this a buy one get one free deal? Su Xiaolan's lips twitched. We were almost killed by the power of that ghost phoenix. An awkward smile appeared on Enlin's face. He raised his head, only to discover that Su Xiaolan was staring at him with her bright eyes. Xiaolan, you. Before Enlin had a chance to finish his sentence, a fragrant scent wafted toward him. What followed was a warm and soft kiss, accompanied by a sweet taste. Su Xiaolan closed her eyes, and her long eyelashes trembled slightly. The woman under the starry night sky had skin as white as the moon, and her breathing was slightly rapid due to the violent energy fluctuations from before. Her breathing was like drifting clouds teasing Enlin. Happiness had come too suddenly. This kiss made Enlin's heart feel both stupefied and sweet. In his memory, this seemed to be the first time that Su Xiaolan had kissed him of her own accord. That feeling was really different. It was super exciting. What he didn't know was that Su Xiaolan had already given her first kiss to him in a certain cave in the holy glacial lands. Rumble, 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 moo. I'm so glad you're all right. The huge white cow trotted toward Enlin and Su Xiaolan with a joyful expression. Su Xiaolan gave him a light shove to end the bashful intimacy. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks, making her appear extremely adorable, and Enlin couldn't help but want to kiss her. Enlin turned to Aonyo with a cold and resentful expression. How about we eat roast beef later? Aonyo's footsteps faltered upon sensing the killing intent, and all of its white fur stood on end. New Orleans roast beef? It did not know what it was. But that food had the word Ao and Nyo in its name. Wasn't he obviously saying that he wanted to eat it? The two of them continued to chat as they paid no heed to the deathly pale Aonyo. A shy smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. That kiss was a reward for your good performance. Enlin came to his senses and flicked her forehead. Don't try to chase me away again. I'm so bad *SS, are you still worried about me? Su Xiaolan nodded with a smile. I know you're the best. Enlin was quite happy to be praised, and he pulled the woman beside him to her feet. However, just as the two of them held hands, he suddenly felt as if there was some kind of peculiar connection between them. It was as if they were in the realm of perfect harmony. Su Xiaolan's expression also shifted as she turned to look at Enlin. They both let go of each other in unison, and the connection disappeared, The two of them looked at each other in surprise before continuing to hold hands. The connection was there. They broke up, and the connection disappeared. Aonyo stared blankly at the two humans holding hands before parting ways with a dumbstruck expression. Was this some kind of new form of interaction? Why did they seem to be having so much fun? This is probably the power of the blood phoenix, right? Unlin was a little hesitant. Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed slightly. That should have something to do with the marks on our hands. How about we give it a try? Unlin asked. Let's give it a try. Su Xiaolan nodded. Boom. A crimson flame engulfed the space within a radius of over a kilometer. Su Xiaolan waved her hand through the air to unleash the power of the blood phoenix that she had obtained from her body. Unlin also unleashed his full power upon seeing this. Scorching crimson flames with a hint of killing intent soared into the sky. Even though they weren't as powerful as Su Xiaolan, they weren't far off. Not bad. These red flames are at the level of a divine flame. Unlin was quite elated. Let's try the next experiment, Su Xiaolan said in a quiet voice. Hearing this, Unlin immediately latched onto Su Xiaolan's slender hand in a show of tacit understanding. A peculiar connection began to appear. It was a little faint, but it was definitely there. When the two of them unleashed the power of the mutant blood phoenix at the same time, the connection became extremely strong. At the same time, an extremely dazzling light erupted from the half-phoenix insignia in their hands. In the air, the crimson insignia intertwined to form a complete phoenix. It was as if the boundless might of a god from the heavens had erupted forth in a frenzy. Boom! Crimson flames erupted forth, engulfing heaven and earth, as if a red sun had exploded in the air, lighting up the entire world. Boundless flames erupted forth like a nuclear bomb, enshrouding the gargantuan mutant blood phoenix within. Aonyo howled in fear and fled into the distance, but it was still knocked flying by the terrifying shockwave. The crimson flames scorched its white fur, and it plummeted to the ground like a fireball. Thank God it was at the edge of the explosion and had thick skin. Otherwise, it really would have become a New Orleans roast beef. Aonyo stared at the center of the explosion with shock and horror on its face. The flames there had twisted the space around it, and the light and heat emanating from the explosion were enough to blind it. Are those two playing with fire? Did they really die from the explosion? Aonyo muttered to itself. It simply couldn't believe that any living being could survive such a terrifying explosion. Even a weaker return to void stage mighty figure would probably be crippled if they were to take a direct hit from that explosion. However, Aonyo's eyes widened again after a short while. The flames were quickly dissipating, and two familiar figures appeared on the huge bird's back, both of them completely unscathed. Unlin and Su Xiaolan were also staring at each other with astonishment in their eyes. It was quite clear that what they had just witnessed had exceeded their wildest imaginations. So our combined powers are this powerful? Su Xiaolan's eyes widened with incredulity. Perhaps this is the power of love? Unlin murmured. Su Xiaolan. The two of them let go of each other, and they felt as if their bodies had been completely drained. This was a result of them expending too much energy. Unlin and Su Xiaolan were able to drain each other's bodies just by holding hands. They looked down at the mutant blood phoenix beneath their feet to find that its indestructible body had been reduced to a bright red skeleton by the terrifying flames. Its feathers and flesh had all been reduced to ashes. The power of their combined attack was absolutely terrifying. Chapter 795. Aren't we going too far? After all, it's a mythological beast that bestowed its power upon us. Su Xiaolan looked down at the charred skeleton of the phoenix with a shameful expression. Unlin nodded in agreement. How about this? We'll cut off all of its bones and send them back to the sect to be forged into weapons and pills. That way, we'll be able to unleash the last of its light and warmth, and make its life even more valuable so that it can die a worthy death. Su Xiaolan's face convulsed as she turned to Unlin. Only the shameless Lin would be able to make something like this sound so righteous. However, for the sake of the 4-9 immortal sex development, Lin and Su Xiaolan continued to work with great fervor. Both of their sword techniques were very powerful, so they were able to work without much difficulty. Even the body of a mythological beast could be sliced open by them without its essential power. Soon, the gargantuan phoenix skeleton was diced into countless pieces before being stowed away into their storage rings with elation in their eyes. Just these mythological beast bones alone were worth over 10 million spirit stones. Not to mention the fact that they had inherited the power and techniques of the mutant blood phoenix. They had struck gold this time. Lin and Su Xiaolan were in high spirits as they rode on Ao Nyo's back and galloped toward the place where the red star and yellow star intersected. Lin was quite elated, and he rewarded Ao Nyo with a phoenix bone. "Take it, it's delicious," Lin instructed. Ao Nyo's tears flowed down its face. "I'm a cow, not a dog." However, it still silently stowed the bone away. Not taking into account other things, it would be quite useful to refine a weapon or armor. Ao Nyo continued to gallop forward like a streak of white light. Its speed was extremely fast, close to that of a normal soul formation stage cultivator. This was one of the advantages of beasts. Their bodies were extremely powerful, and they were very good at sports. Phew, so fast. It's much faster than when we run. Su Xiaolan spread her arms wide, and her fine black hair fluttered behind her like a waterfall. There was a beautiful smile on her face as she laughed heartily. Lin was in the front, his hands holding onto the bull's horns like he was steering a steering wheel. He smiled and said, "Yes. Audi and BMW can all step aside. Ao Nyo is invincible." The white cow that had been running heard Lin's words. Although it didn't know what Audi and BMW were, it understood the last sentence, so it became more proud and ran more excitedly. Roar! A beam of red light suddenly pounced towards Lin. Its roar was so terrifying that it caused the ground to crack. Golden lightning also appeared at this moment, tearing through the void and landing on the red light. Rumble! One of the blood leopards had a huge hole in its head. Its body twitched as it fell to the ground. Ao Nyo glanced at the blood leopard on the ground before continuing to run. This was the 9th demonic blood beast they had encountered along the way. Although it wasn't as terrifying as the 3 demonic blood beasts they had encountered before, it was still a very troublesome opponent for soul formation stage soul beasts. However, this level of danger was like trash to Lin and Su Xiaolan. They could kill it with a wave of their hand. Were those 2 really soul formation stage cultivators? Could they be some King mighty figure in disguise? If it weren't for the fact that Return to Void stage mighty figures would go insane upon entering this place, Ao Nyo would have thought that these 2 were Return to Void stage mighty figures in disguise. Ao Nyo continued to run forward. The 2 people on its back could easily take care of any problems they encountered along the way, so it didn't have to worry about them at all. 1 hour later, they finally arrived at their destination. This was the place where the red star and the yellow star were connected. We have 3 choices now. The first is to head toward the yellow star. Apparently, the exit is there, and we can get out of there. The second is to head toward the red star and see what's in the opposite direction of the exit. The third is to continue wandering around and try our luck to see if we can find any opportunities. Lin looked down at the vast expanse of land as he spoke in a slow voice. "Moo, I think we should go back. You've already reaped so much." Ao Nyo had been forced to come here, so it naturally didn't have any nostalgia for this place, so it immediately made a suggestion. Lin ignored it and turned to Su Xiaolan. "Ao Nyo. Alright, it was just a laborer, so it didn't have any say in this." Su Xiaolan was also struggling to make a decision. The Kirin blood jade was definitely an extremely valuable treasure, so it would be best if they could obtain it. The vast land of blood was so vast, so even if they couldn't find the Kirin blood jade, they should have a good chance of finding other treasures. This was an unexplored land of treasures. There really were many opportunities here. It was even more so for soul formation cultivators like them who had cheats. With their power, they definitely wouldn't cower in the face of enemies, and they would be able to face all types of dangers with ease. With such a massive advantage, it wouldn't make sense for them to cower and try to run away. As long as Return to Void stage mighty figures didn't appear, this was their world. Of course, that didn't include the uncanny dangers of the vast land of blood. Those unknown dangers were also the reason why Su Xiaolan was struggling to make a decision. How about we keep trying? Su Xiaolan suggested. Let's try. Enlin was extremely enthusiastic as he tugged on Aonyo's head with a smile. Let's go. Aonyo. Let's set off toward the red star. Tears welled up in Aonyo's eyes as it silently turned around and ran further and further away from the exit. Us? No. It's you and me. Aonyo transformed its grief and indignation into strength, and it ran faster and faster until it reached supersonic speed. However, they didn't have to run for long before the starry sky in the sky suddenly surged and dimmed. The light between heaven and earth began to fade, and even the starlight disappeared as if it had been obscured by a layer of darkness. A pair of eyes that seemed to encompass heaven and earth began to appear within the boundless inky black darkness. Enlin, Su Xiaolan, and Aonyo's expressions shifted drastically. Be careful, the heavenly judgment has begun. Enlin yelled as he pulled out his chaotic alloy brick with an extremely grave expression. These were the three strangest things in the vast land of blood. Star suppression, heavenly judgment, and reversal. Star suppression wasn't scary as it was merely a form of punishment for flying beings. If you wanted to avoid this, all you had to do was not fly. However, the heavenly judgment was different. It was also known as the Wheel of Death. This was because wherever the eyes in the sky looked, destruction would descend upon that place. In other words, wherever the eyes in the sky looked, they would die. Random map cannon. Just as the three of them were on guard, the eyes in the sky turned toward a certain direction on the continent. Boom! The apocalyptic scene of the heavens collapsing and the earth splitting appeared. A certain direction over 500 kilometers away from Enlin and Su Xiaolan was instantly transformed into a sea of blood hell. Destructive energy swept forth, destroying everything in the surroundings. A red mushroom cloud rose up from the ground, as if it were the smiling face of a demon. Even though the destructive power was so far away, it still struck fear into the hearts of onlookers. Enlin and Su Xiaolan had yet to recover from the shock of witnessing the heavenly judgment. The massive eyes in the sky turned toward the area where Enlin and Su Xiaolan were situated. Chapter 796. This was completely unexpected to them. It was as if they had suddenly struck the jackpot. The vast land of blood was massive, but the pair of eyes in the sky just so happened to be looking at them. What else could it be other than striking the jackpot? However, the reward was a little terrifying, because the reward was death. Aonyo's legs gave out from under him, and it collapsed to the ground. Enlin and Su Xiaolan's faces also turned deathly pale in that instant, and their hearts skipped a beat. What do we do? No one could remain calm and collected in the face of a peculiar power that was capable of killing everything it looked at. Countless thoughts flashed through Enlin's mind in that instant. Black brick? No. From the explosion just then, he could tell that the power encompassed an entire space, so the black brick alone wouldn't be able to keep it at bay. A thought flashed through his mind, and he pulled out an extremely beautiful mirror again. It had a vibrant and intricate frame and a smooth and translucent surface. Come on out, vermilion bird mirror. Enlin aimed the vermilion bird mirror at the pair of eyes in the sky. As long as it was a spell technique, no matter how peculiar it was, it could be reflected by the mirror. Within the boundless darkness, the mirror reflected another pair of eyes that seemed to contain heaven and earth, as if two pairs of eyes were looking at one another. Silence. Extremely silence. There were no earth-shattering spell techniques falling, so there were naturally no spell techniques being reflected. The pair of eyes stared silently at the vermilion bird mirror. Gulp, Unlin swallowed involuntarily, and he didn't dare to move the vermilion bird mirror in the slightest. Su Xiaolan and Ao Nyo didn't dare to move either, as they were afraid that their actions would change the silence around them. At this moment it was like a silent painting. After a while, the pair of eyes that seemed to exist in the sky began to slowly close. Everything disappeared, and the starry sky reappeared as if nothing had happened. If it weren't for the fact that Unlin could still see the destructive flames in the extremely far distance, he would have thought that everything that had just happened was an illusion. Mu? What just happened? Did we come back to life? Ao Nyo stood up with incredulity on its face as it looked up into the clear sky with its bell-sized black eyes. Su Xiaolan was also looking at the mirror in Unlin's hand with a curious expression. Unlin, was the vermilion bird mirror the reason why we were able to avoid the heavenly judgment? Unlin was just as confused. He flicked the mirror with his index finger and asked, "Hey, mirror, did you block the heaven's judgment just now?" Su Xiaolan. So you don't know either? Unlin fell silent. He was also in despair. He didn't even know if it was his own magic treasure that did it. As the owner of this magic treasure, he was indeed a failure. Thankfully, the vermilion bird mirror didn't maintain its cold and aloof demeanor this time. "I didn't use the rebound ability," a clear and tender voice rang out. "However, those eyes give me a familiar feeling," the vermilion bird mirror continued. Unlin's interest was piqued. "How so? Do you two know each other?" The vermilion bird mirror wobbled slightly. "I don't know, but it just feels familiar." Unlin. All right, it looked like he wouldn't be able to get any more information out of it. All of a sudden, Unlin recalled another ability of the vermilion bird mirror. "My all-knowing magic mirror, do you know what this place is? How much information can you tell me? My stupid master, don't ask me these boring questions. Even if I know something, I won't tell you." The vermilion bird mirror replied in a firm voice. "Unlin, Su Xiaolan, slap, slam. What kind of **TTY mirror is this? This is definitely a fake magic treasure." Ao Nyo was also astonished. He had seen magic treasures that could talk before, but this was the first time he had seen a magic treasure that could attack its master like this. He had learned something new. Unlin silently stowed the vermilion bird mirror away. Every time he let it out, it would get into a fight. "Are we still going to continue?" Su Xiaolan asked. That scene just then had been far too dangerous. They had even encountered something as rare as divine judgment, which was quite unfavorable for them. Hence, Su Xiaolan was a little hesitant. "Let's continue." Unlin gritted his teeth and said, "Isn't there a saying that goes, after the worst comes the best? We were so unlucky just then, and we've used up all of our bad luck. Now we're going to have good luck." Su Xiaolan felt like this made sense, and she was a little less nervous. "Mu, isn't there a saying that misfortune never comes alone?" Ao Nyo interjected. Unlin, Su Xiaolan. Unlin really wanted to slap Ao Nyo to death. They had finally regained their morale, but their efforts were instantly shattered. "How about we go back to New Orleans roast beef?" Unlin suggested expressionlessly. "I agree." Su Xiaolan nodded. Ao Nyo's legs almost gave out from under him, and it almost knelt down again. Unlin and Su Xiaolan naturally weren't going to really roast Ao Nyo. That was their luxurious car, and they would develop feelings for it after riding it for so long. How could they bear to roast it? Thus, Ao Nyo continued toward the red star with Unlin and Su Xiaolan on its back. The yellow star was the exit. Unlin was naturally very curious about what lay beyond the red star. What was furthest away from the exit? It was a boundless expanse of black earth, with hills and mountain ranges. Aside from encountering demonic blood beasts along the way, they also encountered a type of black mist that could tear one's consciousness apart. Their auras were ethereal, and they appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Their methods of attack were also extremely strange. Normal spirit beasts and soul beasts would most likely be tortured to death upon encountering them. However, they encountered Enlin, who seemed to be using a hack. Enlin's consciousness was one of the most powerful even among Return to Void stage mighty figures. In the face of these living beings, all he needed to do was unleash a divine might technique, and they were instantly blasted into smithereens. This was most likely a one-sided slaughter. Aonyo's footsteps also became a lot more confident as he thought about this. As the distance between them increased, the red star above them also began to change. It seemed to have become a lot bigger and brighter. "We're getting closer and closer to that star," Enlin exclaimed with elation. The fact that they could sense the changes in the star indicated that they weren't very far away from the star. 500 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers, before they knew it, the outline of the red star began to appear before their eyes. "It's not a star, is it?" Enlin stared blankly at the scene before him. It looks flat, like a small piece of land." Su Xiaolan nodded. That's right, what had appeared before them was a small, flat piece of floating land that was glowing with a red light. As they drew closer and closer, the floating land became larger and larger in their field of vision. They could even see some peculiar buildings on it. What did it mean to see buildings in such a barren place? This meant that there were signs of living beings living there. At the same time, according to many ruins, this was a place where treasures could be found. After all, only when there were living beings living there would there be cultural relic. With this in mind, Enlin immediately whipped Aonyo's bottom with the whip in his hand. "Go! My Aonyo, pick up the pace. 5th gear forward. Slap. Go! Aonyo!" Chapter 797. Aonyo continued onward, and the red floating continent drew closer and closer. Enlin could clearly see that all of the buildings were oval-shaped crimson buildings that were supported by a single pillar. They looked a lot like oval-shaped mushrooms. At the very center of the buildings was a huge mushroom that glowed with a dazzling red light. The light and the floating continent were one and the same, and from a distance it looked like a red star. "Huh? Enlin, look over there. There are other life forms." Su Xiaolan pointed at a spot below the red floating continent, where there were 5 black figures. Enlin sensed for a moment and discovered that the 5 black figures all had decent auras. In his eyes, those with decent auras were naturally more badass than Aonyo. As it turned out, they weren't the only ones interested in the red planet. There were also other powerful beings among the beast tribe that had chosen to explore this place. The 5 black dots in the extremely far distance seemed to have also spotted Enlin and the others, and they ran toward them at a speed even faster than Aonyo's. Enlin was able to see them more clearly this time. The 5 black figures were a frog enshrouded in poisonous mist, a black lizard dragon, a wriggling monster that resembled a white glutinous rice ball, a lion with golden flames, and a huge dog with blue spikes all over its body. "None of them can be ridden," Su Xiaolan grumbled. Aonyo's heart constricted again upon hearing Su Xiaolan's words. Moments later, it also saw who it was, and its expression shifted drastically as it turned tail and fled. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were both dumbstruck. "Why are you running?" Enlin was displeased. "That's the Divine Guardian Squad under the Divine Bat Emperor's command. All of the beasts in that squad are terrifying beings of the soul formation stage. If you're caught by them in the ruins, nothing good will happen to you." Aonyo panicked as it ran. Enlin grabbed onto Aonyo's horns with both hands and yanked it back, almost causing it to flip over. "Moo!" Aonyo let loose a loud cry as it stopped running. "They're the most terrifying beings in the soul formation stage? Are you scarier than me?" Enlin asked. Aonyo trembled uncontrollably at the sight of the 5 beasts charging toward it. It could even see the sinister smiles on the faces of the 5 beasts. Soon, the Divine Bat Emperor's Divine Guardian Squad reached Enlin and the others. Woof woof. You're smart enough not to run. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to withstand the wrath of the Emperor. The huge dog with blue spikes all over its body spoke in an extremely shrill voice. Croak. Cooperate with us and we'll spare your lives after we're done, the frog said proudly. Two of them were actually humans? I thought they were minotaurs or horsemen, the golden flame long-necked lion said coldly as it narrowed its eyes at Enlin and Su Xiaolan. Haha, a human is here? Very good. We can eat them after we're done with the experiment. It's been a long time since I've tasted the flesh of a soul formation stage powerful being. The black rock lizard dragon flapped its wings with glee, but it didn't dare to use too much force in fear of flying into the air. At this moment, the white rice ball-like monster made its way to the front of the group. Stop wasting time. They're just two soul formation intermediate stage trash. You can do whatever you want with them. Hurry up and carry out your mission. The other four beasts stopped their bickering upon hearing this. The poison mist frog and the black rock lizard dragon stepped forward. It was clear that only two beasts had decided to attack. In their eyes, two beasts were more than enough to deal with two soul formation intermediate stage humans and one Ao Nyo at the soul formation pinnacle stage. The frog opened its mouth. Croak. Be careful of that cow. The black rock lizard dragon chuckled. Hee hee, they look like they've been scared witless. They didn't even run away after seeing us. Croak. I'll come and help you after I capture those two humans. The frog said. What kind of experiment are you talking about? Enlin couldn't help but ask. Weaklings don't have the right to ask questions. You'll be my food sooner or later anyway. Croak. The frog croaked before leaping toward Enlin and Su Xiaolan. The black rock lizard dragon also pounced toward Ao Nyo. The auras of the two beasts instantly rose to their peak, and their terrifying auras transformed into gale-force winds that swept through the surroundings. Their auras were indeed the most powerful among all the soul formation stage beasts that Enlin had ever seen. The poison mist frog was as fast as a ghost. It opened its cavernous mouth, and its tongue shot forth like a bolt of black lightning, instantly wrapping around Enlin's body. Enlin's eyes had already turned snowy white. Wings of wind spread open on his back, and streams of wind revolved around his evil-slaying sword. Divine Inspection Technique, Stage 2 Wind Spirit Technique, Wind Sword. 3 spell techniques were unleashed at the same time. The poison mist frog's tongue lashed toward Enlin at an extremely fast speed, only to discover that Enlin's body had instantly disappeared, leaving behind only a gust of wind. Croak? The frog croaked in confusion before feeling that its tongue was a little cold. Splat, blood splattered through the air as the frog wailed in anguish. Its long tongue had been severed. Not only that, but the poisonous mist enshrouding its body was also shattered by the golden light. A massive golden fist imbued with the power of the earth crashed down with the force of a huge mountain before crashing into the frog's body. Boom! The frog was smashed into the ground by the fist, and its internal organs were pulverized. Even the ground within a radius of over a kilometer had caved in. At the same time, the black rock lizard dragon, which was flying toward Ao Nyo, saw 2 streaks of blue lightning sword projections flashing through the air. Immediately afterward, its massive dragon wings were severed. The lizard dragon transformed back into a lizard, and it stared at the oncoming woman in a jade dress with shock and horror on its face. In the next instant, the dragon's sparrow sword, which was flashing with flames and lightning, was already hovering above its head. Gasp! All of the beasts present stared at the scenes unfolding before them with dumbstruck expressions. Even though Ao Nyo had mentally prepared himself, his eyes were still wide open. Even though it knew that Enlin and Su Xiaolan were very powerful, it was still extremely astonished to see 2 Divine Guardian squad beasts insta-killed. Is this the power of a soul formation intermediate stage human? The golden flame long-necked lion was completely dumbstruck. Such terrifying power! Even the gluten lord. The huge dog turned to look at the white, glutinous rice-like beast beside it with shock in its eyes. The white, glutinous rice-like monster didn't say anything. Instead, it stared intently at the man standing nearby with its yellow eyes. Unlin stepped onto the dying frog's body with a faint smile on his face. You're right, weaklings don't have the right to ask questions. So, can I ask a question now? F*CKU. If you want to kill me, then do it. If I say one more word, I'm your grandson. Ribbit. The frog roared with rage. You've got guts. Unlin raised his evil-slaying sword. Grandpa! The frog yelled. Unlin, Su Xiaolan, all of the beasts.